All right, we're following breaking news just into the newsroom. We have learned of an incident happening right now in Martin County. Our Caleb Califano is standing by with the Martin County Sheriff. Caleb, what can you tell us?
Well, we are still gathering details here. Joining me now is Sheriff William Snyder here in Martin County. Sir, just tell us what you know so far.
I can tell you this is a very fluid scene. It's not static at all. I-95 is still shut down. We've had a pretty serious crash out there. So first thing I'd like to do is ask motorists, be careful and try to stay off I-95. We're on 714 right now. North of here is shut down. We have stopped the vehicle that the FBI, the Secret Service, and the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office asked all law enforcement to look for. We had the vehicle description and we had a tag number. We mobilized out on the interstate. Two of my marked units picked up the vehicle. We followed it for a bit. We were able to contain it using some of our bigger vehicles that we use for specialized stops. We got the vehicle stopped. Since then, the FBI and the Secret Service have responded to the scene. It does appear that we certainly have the vehicle involved in the incident at Mar-a-Lago, and we have the suspect that they were looking for. And now the FBI and the Secret Service will take over that investigation.
So what's the process with that? Now that you have identified this vehicle, did you take them into custody, or is that all going into the hands of the Secret Service and the FBI?
Well, we initially took them into custody and held them till the arrival of the federal authorities. The search of the vehicle, looking for any weapons that may be in there, will now be up to the federal authorities and the U.S. Attorney General.
And then at this process, what was that like stopping him? I know you were out on looking for him. Every law enforcement agency around this area was. What was that process like for you guys here in Martin County?
Well, I missed the stop. I was on the way from home, of course. It sounded very tense on the radio. We knew that we had a bolo. Be on the lookout for somebody who had opened fire on the President of the United States. I would say there's probably not a more volatile, potentially dangerous situation than that. Our units were completely locked on. We were ready to go. Had the vehicle fled, we would have stopped it. Of course, God forbid, had there been a gunfight, we were ready to engage. Thankfully, because of good tactics, stopping the car, felony stop, getting him out of the vehicle, coming back to us, we were able to stabilize the scene without any further violence.
Give us a timeline here. When did you first identify that vehicle, and when were you able to finally stop him?
It was just right after 2 o'clock this afternoon, following the bolo, the be on the lookout that we received from south of us, that our road units picked the vehicle up. And then we waited a while. We didn't stop him right away. We didn't want a high-speed chase. So we were able to wait until we had adequate units, surrounded the vehicle, and then forced it to a stop.
I know this is a fluid situation, but did the suspect put up any fight, or did he stop once he realized there was multiple vehicles there following him?
We did not give him an opportunity to put up a fight. So we had him contained, forced off the road, taken out at gunpoint, pulled back in what we call a felony stop, and he was safely taken into custody.
And as you said, you believe this may be the suspect and the vehicle involved in the incident down in Mar-a-Lago. I know it's still a very fluid situation here.
This is the vehicle, and this is the suspect, and he is in custody.
So is he in the custody right now at the Martin County Jail, or is he taken somewhere else because of the involvement down in Mar-a-Lago?
He is currently in custody by the Martin County Sheriff's Office, my agency, but as soon as the FBI Secret Service are ready, we'll transfer his custody over to them.
Final question for you here. Obviously a fluid situation out there on I-95. It's going to be shut down, I would imagine, still for a while. What's the process out there, and what's your warning for drivers headed around this area?
Yeah, if you're northbound on I-95 and you're approaching Palm City, we're right here in Palm City, Florida, get off and go to the turnpike. We had to clear the vehicle with an explosive vehicle on loan to us, an explosive dog from the St. Louis County Sheriff's Office. Governor DeSantis made contact with us and let us know we had all the FAP help we wanted. And of course, we're profoundly thankful that we were able to neutralize the suspect and to hopefully increase the safety for President Trump.
One other question. Can you tell what kind of vehicle it was, what you found inside?
It was a, let me leave it at this. It was a dark colored, middle year SUV, but I think the specifics will be released by the federal authorities.
Sheriff, is there anything else that's important to note about what you guys did here at this scene, or anything else that people need to know out there?
Well, what's very important is this. We took as high a profile felon off the streets as is possible. We did it safely. Nobody else was hurt. And I'm thankful to the men and women of the Martin County Sheriff's Office who put their lives really a significant risk. They had no idea what they were encountering. I mean, think about it. They're stopping a car. The bolo was for a suspect who had just fired at the President of the United States with a tactical rifle. It does not get scarier than that.
Sheriff, thank you very much. We'll keep you updated here. Coming back to me, as Sheriff William Snyder just said, they believe this is the suspect involved and it is the car involved as well. Obviously, still a very fluid situation here in Martin County. We'll keep you updated. Back to you.
All right, Caleb, thank you. And as you just heard, Caleb spoke to Sheriff William Snyder in Martin County. Martin County Sheriff's deputies stopped a vehicle there that is believed to be connected to the incident at Trump International Golf Club. They do have that suspect in custody. This all stems from a bolo or be on the lookout that was issued. Martin County Sheriff's deputies got that bolo and they sprang into action, capturing that suspect right there on I-95 northbound. Another thing the sheriff said is that if you are traveling on I-95 northbound and you're in the Palm City area, get off the highway and get onto the turnpike because there are still delays and traffic backup in that area as they continue to work on that scene. We will have much more for you coming up tonight on WPBF 25 News starting at 5. For now, we return you to programming.
FBI from the Secret Service, from the State Attorney's Office, we are going to give you everything we have. Everything. All right? So when we get done, think about your questions because we're not going to take a lot. And keep them to the information that you heard. Don't get into what ifs, and because of this, we're not going to go there. All right? So keep that in mind, and we'll be good. So here we go. All right, 1:30 this afternoon. Call came out, shots fired. That was called in by the Secret Service. Because we're in constant contact with them all the time, we were notified of that, and we had units here that immediately sealed off the area. Fortunately, we were able to locate a witness that came to us and said, hey, I saw the guy running out of the bushes. He jumped into a black Nissan, and I took a picture of the vehicle and the tag, which was great. So we had that information. Our real-time crime center put it out to the license plate readers. And we were able to get a hit on that vehicle on I-95 as it was headed into Martin County. We got a hold of Martin County Sheriff's Office, alerted them, and they spotted the vehicle and pulled it over and detained the guy. After that, we took the the witness that witnessed the incident, flew him up there, and he identified as the person that he saw running out of the bushes and jumped into the car. Now, in the bushes where this guy was is a AK-47 style rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks which were hung on the fence that had ceramic tile in them, and a GoPro, which he was going to take pictures of. So those are being processed right now. The Secret Service agent that was on the course did a fantastic job. What they do is they have an agent that jumps one hole ahead of time to where the president was at. And he was able to spot this rifle barrel sticking out of the fence and immediately engage that individual, at which time the individual took off. So that's what we know about the investigation. We have somebody in custody right now that is a potential suspect. We got a little bit more work to do on it, but as we usually do, as soon as we decide that we're going to book him into the county jail and the charges that he's going to be booked into, we'll get those to you and we'll get a picture of him and we'll get you his background. So now I'm going to turn it over to the representative of the Secret Service, and he's going to make a brief statement.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I first want to thank all of our law enforcement partners, to include the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office and the Martin County Sheriff's Office, for their involvement today. Former President Donald Trump is safe and unharmed following a protective incident shortly before 2 p.m. on Sunday at Trump International Golf Club at West Palm Beach. The U.S. Secret Service personnel opened fire on a gunman located near the property line, and this matter is under investigation. I'll turn it over to my partners over at the FBI.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Veltri. I'm the special agent in charge of the FBI's Miami field office. The FBI has assumed the role as the lead federal law enforcement agency in the investigation of the incident that occurred earlier today at Trump International Golf Course here in West Palm Beach, Florida. We've deployed a number of resources, including investigative teams, crisis response team members, bomb technicians, and evidence response team members as well. What we need right now is for the public to avoid the area around the golf course. We will continue to support this investigation with the full resources of the FBI, alongside our partners with the United States Secret Service and the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office, as well as Martin County Sheriff's Office and state and local law enforcement. I would ask that if anyone has any information that may assist with this investigation, to contact our tip line at 1-800-CALL-FBI or at tips, that's TIPS, .fbi.gov. Thank you.
David?
Hi, I'm Dave Ehrenberg, State Attorney for Palm Beach County. I want to thank Sheriff Bradshaw and our partners at the local, state, and federal levels. I'm here because our prosecutors are currently working up warrants and a motion for pretrial detention for the suspect. In that way, he will be kept in custody. But our filing of these warrants and charges at the state level does not preclude federal charges that could be coming. But in the meantime, it looks like the warrants and the pretrial detention motion will happen first. And again, I want to thank the cooperation we've had with our federal partners and at the local level. And thank you all for being here today.
Okay, we're going to make these pictures available to you. It'll show you a picture of the backpack and the rifle. And there's also a GoPro on the fence there where he was intent on filming what was going on. Even though we're going to have to secure a couple of areas around the golf course here, the public doesn't need to panic. We know that we got a post office, a library, and a school down the street. So we'll make it convenient for you to get to all the places you need to go, get your kids to school, get them over here to the post office or wherever else you need to go. It's safe, there's no more danger here, and we'll make it very convenient for you. So having said that, we're going to take a very limited amount of questions, and you can direct them to who you want to answer the question.
Sheriff, did this individual make any statements as he was being detained?
No statement right now as far as his involvement in the incident, and there's further investigation to be completed.
What was his demeanor like?
Yeah, I'm not sure if maybe the Secret Service gentleman answered. I misunderstood, or I couldn't quite understand. So there was a rifle, so one of your agents saw, on the golf course, saw a rifle pointing through a fence. Was it the chain link? Okay, so he saw that, the agent?
That is correct, yes.
And the president or the former president was on the course behind him. How close?
It was 1 or 2 holes behind.
100%.
That because the bubble moves through the golf course, so our agents will get there first, clear it. He noticed that the rifle was pointed out. Our agents engaged. We are not sure right now if the individual was able to take a shot at our agents, but for sure our agents were able to engage with the subject. I don't know that.
Doesn't appear so.
Is there a vote?
Yep. Al?
How far away was the president, how far away was Donald Trump when this gentleman was caught and stopped?
I got it. Probably between 300 and 500 yards, but with a rifle and a scope like that, that's not a long distance.
For the Secret Service, how far was your agent from the would-be assailant?
That I'm not sure right now. We're still looking into that.
Reports of the 4 rounds of ammunition were fired. Were all 4 of those from your agent?
That is correct. 4 to 6. We're not sure yet.
Was there a long distance? Explaining why?
Yes.
And
Yes, ma'am.
WPF 25, I was wondering what how this was able to happen, and for future reference, is there any security in the golf course?
I didn't hear all that. Say that one more time and talk up a little bit.
So how was this able to happen, and for future reference, is there any security in the golf course?
Well, you got to understand the golf course is surrounded by shrubbery, so when somebody gets into the shrubbery, they're pretty much out of sight. All right, and at this level that he is at right now, he's not the sitting president. If he was, we would have had this entire golf course around it. But because he's not, the security is limited to the areas that the Secret Service deems possible. So I would imagine that the next time he comes to the golf course, there'll probably be a little more people around the perimeter. But the Secret Service did exactly what they should have done. They provided exactly what the protection should have been, and their agent did a fantastic job.
Which direction was the shrubbery where he was? North, south? Or I guess east, west, or south is the road?
The layout of the golf course, you've got 3 holes, 5, 6, and 7. All right? One of them runs parallel to Summit Boulevard. One of them runs parallel to Congress. And he was in an area in the shrubbery where he could see both holes. So the president was another hole back, which means he's about between 400 and 500 yards away.
So he was on the golf course?
Oh, he's on the golf course, yeah, but he's back a ways.
For the Secret Service, have you guys changed at all the way that you guys are protecting former President Donald Trump? This is now a potential second attempt on him. Can you just elaborate on how things have changed and what you make of all this?
Yes, the threat level is high. We have increased the amount of assets that we've supported, so we live in danger times. So yes.
We're done with questions right now. There's really nothing more for us to add. I just want to tell you, the Secret Service and the FBI and the State Attorney's Office have been fantastic to work with. And I can tell you right now, our agency with this real-time crime center was fabulous. That's how we got the guy. We started out with, we don't know anything, to where we had a tag, we had a vehicle description, and we got an area where we saw the person. So be proud of your law enforcement. All right, thanks folks, we'll get back to you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
Okay, before we get to that, I just want to bring up the photo we have now of the suspect. This has just come through. This is being reported in the New York Post, and this is the man that police have in custody. So, this is a face to the name of this 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Routh. So there you have it. James, I want to talk about rhetoric for a moment.
Yeah.
Do you think rhetoric from the Democrats leads to this incitement against Donald Trump, or is it just the tone and tenor of debate in the US at the moment, which has been heading this way for quite some years?
Well, Laura, it's a really interesting question here, and I'm really loath to blame rhetoric per se for inspiring people to violent acts. People who commit violent acts, are ultimately responsible for their violent acts. I don't subscribe to, that idea that words necessarily are violence, because, of course, that leads to all sorts of things where people want to restrict speech on the basis of protecting, people from violence. But what I will say is that when it comes to political violence, the left likes to act in the United States and elsewhere like they have clean hands on this. But I mean, if anybody who lived through the 2020 riots around BLM and Antifa, know that violence is very much a feature of left-wing politics. And I know people will say, oh, well, January 6th too, and that's fine. You can say that. But what I do think is appalling is that some outlets, such as MSNBC in the U.S., have tried to somehow say that this is Trump's fault for his own rhetoric. And, this is just appalling here. The thing is, there's a lot of questions that we need answers on. One thing that I would love to know, Laura, is how did this individual, this alleged would-be assassin, and I'm saying alleged, but how did he know that the former president would be playing Trump at that time, at that place? I mean, I think there's questions that need to be answered and investigated here. I'm not suggesting a conspiracy, but I do think we need to know answers to these questions going forward.
Yeah, I think so too. And often what these cases can come about, what can happen in the days where this is investigated, is that I think the Secret Service has a hell of a job ahead of them to be able to track and know all the threats against Donald Trump. I mean, 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Routh, Does he fit into, you know, the profile of hundreds of other people that might be upset with Donald Trump? And when you talk about rhetoric, I mean, it was just a couple of hours ago that Donald Trump tweeted, "I hate Taylor Swift." I mean, I'm not saying that's incitement, but, you know, I'm talking about the tone of things in America. The tone of political debate in America has been diabolical for years, and Trump is a part of that.
Well, sure, but I mean, you know, if we find out that this Routh fellow was a Swiftie, then, you know, maybe there's, you know, something to that tweet. But to be serious about it for a moment, though, you know, like, I just, you know, I think that we have to be really, really careful about saying that, you know, we need to be careful about our words because people might do the wrong thing. Well, people who do the wrong thing, you know, will do the wrong thing for whatever reason.
Oh, I agree with
and I
you.
would love to see it. I would love to see. Look, I would love to see, Laura. I would love that, you know, we would go to revert to sort of the, you know, high-minded days of the Lincoln-Douglas debates in America. But I also remember that, you know, the tone of rhetoric in U.S. politics, I mean, go back to some of the presidential campaigns in the early 1800s, you know, they make Donald Trump look like Emily Post when it comes to polite rhetoric. So, you know, we should also have a little bit of historical perspective here.
Yeah.
The big weekend show begins with a Fox News alert, a second assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump.
1:30 this afternoon, call came out, shots fired. That was called in by the Secret Service. In the bushes where this guy was is a AK-47 style rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks which were hung on the fence that had ceramic tile in them, and a GoPro. The Secret Service agent that was on the course did a fantastic job. What they do is they have an agent that jumps one hole ahead of time to where the president was at. And he was able to spot this rifle barrel sticking out of the fence and immediately engage that individual, at which time the individual took off.
Tonight, former President Trump is safe and well after being targeted while golfing at the Trump International Golf Club. The suspected gunman's car was pulled over by Martin County Police, where he was taken into custody. Also found at the scene where shots were fired were weapons hanging on a fence. This comes just over 2 months after the former president survived a first assassination attempt during his rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Joining us now to discuss, the host of Hannity, Sean Hannity. Sean, thank you so much for being here tonight, especially because you've been talking to the former president tonight and his family. How are they doing?
Well, President Trump is fight Trump. I mean, it's interesting. I had gone to breakfast with Steve Witkoff. Steve Witkoff is a brilliant developer, businessman in Florida, a good friend of mine, good friend of the president's. We went to breakfast. He was trying to get me to go play golf with him. I really don't play a lot of golf. And I said, thank you, but I got work to do. And anyway, so he called me not long after this happened, and I spoke to him numerous times. I spoke to President Trump numerous times. And they both described pretty much the same scene. Steve probably gave me more details in terms of what was happening because he was the observer of the Secret Service that was on duty. He couldn't say enough in terms of praising them and the people around the president and how quickly they were to jump on him, get him in a very fast golf cart that was secure, and get him back to safety immediately. Then Steve followed. When Steve walked back into the clubhouse, he heard the president asking, "Where's Steve? Where's this person? Where's that person?" And once the president was assured that everybody was safe, then he started joking, and he said, I was shooting an even round, and I had a birdie putt, and I really wish that I could have finished that hole. And that was how he handled it. But we've learned a lot since then, and I want to say this through the prism of so many members of my family, extended family, have been in law enforcement. My own parents connected to law enforcement in different capacities. And I love the Secret Service, and the guys that were there with the president were amazing. Steve Witkoff will explain all of this on my show tomorrow night. However, when we were watching that press conference with law enforcement today, one thing really I found alarming and glaring when they pointed out that The shooter with an AK-47 and a scope was 300 to 500 yards away from where the president was, and that there was a tree line, and that there was a fence, and he was firing through the fence, and he had 2 backpacks and a GoPro, which would indicate he probably wanted to videotape or memorialize what he was doing, which is scary too. We'll find out, I'm sure, more in the days to come. But this is my problem, and this goes back to Butler, PA. And if you remember earlier in the week, Connecticut Senator Blumenthal made the comment, when Americans find out what happened in Butler and the level of failure that took place there, and originally we're told that it was a sloped roof that made it impossible for the Secret Service to safely secure the area, and it turned out that it was not a sloped roof. And when we find 300 to 500 yards away from not only a former president, as they said, but a top presidential candidate, is unacceptable. And you have to secure the perimeter, because if anybody knows anything about shooting, you know that that is the equivalent pretty much of a layup, or if you're a golfer, that would be a 1-foot putt that you're not going to miss 99% of the time. And that in and of itself is a problem. And what they said was, well, he's not the current president. No, but he's a former president who just survived a recent assassination attempt, and he's the current presidential candidate for the Republican Party, and we have an election in 51 days, and we need answers. Why didn't they have either security cameras? Why didn't they have motion detectors? Why didn't they have somebody outside on the street where the shooter was located looking in on this? I do applaud the snipers that identified that there was somebody that had a gun and took their shots. We don't have all the details yet, but when those details become available, I think it'll be very revealing. But somebody in this position, this is a security failure again. And there's really no other way to put it. And I don't know why. I'm sure we'll get answers in the days to weeks to come. This interim report that Congress is going to put out, if it is as Senator Blumenthal, the Democrat from Connecticut, describes, as Americans will be appalled and shocked by what we learn in terms of the security failures in Butler, I can only imagine how people are going to react to what happened here. There are more questions than answers tonight, Alicia, and by the way, and Charles and Joe and everybody there. And I got to be honest, it's disturbing. Just to give you a little bit of detail as to what happened when the shooting occurred. Steve Witkoff described it to me this way. The president confirmed the story. They heard pop, 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 pop. They knew it was a gunshot. Immediately, within seconds, the president was on the ground, covered by brave Secret Service agents that did their job, protected the president, immediately got him out of the area and to safety. And then everybody else followed thereafter. So they did their job. They were amazing in terms of how quickly they responded here. But to not have that perimeter with a fence, a treed area, and somebody has the ability to get within that range of the president with a scope on an AK-47 is just simply unacceptable.
Hey, Sean, Charlie here.
Hey, Charlie.
It's interesting. I was struck by the same thing that you were struck by during that press conference, talking about the lower level of security in this case. And it made me think immediately the former First Lady, especially given that powerful video she released, I think it was last week sometime, talking about her concern for her husband. In your conversations with the former president today, did you get a sense, did you talk to any family members, or did you get a sense about where they are on all of this?
Well, it's interesting. I did talk to Eric Trump, and both Eric Trump and Don Jr. happen to be superb marksmen. And Eric Trump, it just so happens, was telling me earlier today, with some top-notch sharpshooters, some of the best in the country, they were hitting targets from a mile away. That ought to give people a little bit of perspective in terms of what the perimeter needs to be for any top candidate or elected official. The perimeter can't be 300 to 500 yards, because that's considered an easy shot by anybody that has any level of skill. Now, Eric was, to be honest, pretty emotional and said the words to me, how many more lives does my father have here? In terms of, he can only dodge so many bullets.
Wow.
And he rightfully is upset. And knowing firearms as well as he does, he makes a compelling case. And I'm going to put him on tomorrow night, and he's going to describe this in his own way and how he felt. The whole family has to be upset. I remember the last time when this happened in Butler, poor Barron Trump found out somebody ran over to him and said, your dad's shot, we think he's dead. For a kid that's about to go off to college, I don't think that's a great moment in his life, and probably a very traumatic one for him. And for the entire family, and I feel horrible for this family for all that they have gone through. So much of it has been unfair, but just to stay focused on this, the president tends to shrug this off himself. The president shook the hands, according to my friend Steve Witkoff, of every single person that was out there protecting him. He thanked every one of them for protecting him. He was grateful to all of them. And that just happens to be the way it is. He happens to be. It's a side of him that I wish he would show more often to the American people. But that does not negate the question, Charlie, and I think we're tracking on this very important issue. You've got a tree line, you've got a fence, you're only 300 yards away from where the presidential candidate, former president is, and you got a clean shot. And if it wasn't for one very top-notch Secret Service agent that was able to stop that threat by taking his own shot, I don't know where we would be again today. I mean, the last time we're talking about a millimeter and the president would not be alive today. We would have had a state funeral for Donald Trump back after Butler. So I think there's a lot of questions that got to be answered. This interim report that'll be coming out from Congress I think is going to be very revealing.
Sean, it's Molly here. I'm having this remarkable deja vu because the last time I saw you in person, we were outside of Bedminster, outside of the golf club where he had just survived the prior assassination attempt. And now here we are in the same situation where it's remarkable that the former president is still alive. Remarkable that we're talking about security failures, the bravery, of course, of the people on the ground there, of the Secret Service agent that was one hole ahead and created where we are today. We're thankfully not holding a state funeral of types. Your thoughts on where this goes as we're still waiting for the first interim report to come out on the prior assassination attempt.
Molly, on so many levels, you're so right. And I remember the conversation we had about this very topic. But if you think of the distance of 300 to 500 yards and the idea, regardless of what the resources are, if you don't have enough resources to cover outside of a tree-lined fenced area when the former presidential candidate is playing golf, that is a security vulnerability failure of a magnitude I can't even describe, especially in light of, I might add, the FBI director, Christopher Wray, the last 5 times he has been to Capitol Hill, and I've had my criticism of Director Wray, but the last 5 times he's been there, he has been clear, he has been unequivocal that the threat level in this country has never been greater than it is right now, and that it is coming from everywhere. So that would tell me we need more resources, not just for President Trump, but for the vice president, for the president, and any other high-ranking official or anybody that might have specific direct threats, or if they have direct intelligence about a specific threat. There's got to be a reevaluation here, especially after these 2 incidents, and we've got to get to the bottom of why these security failures keep happening. One of the things that really bothered me about Butler, again, go back to what we were first told. We were told, well, the reason we didn't have officials or snipers on the roof was because it was a sloped roof. Well, there was an adjacent building with a greater pitched sloped roof, and they did have snipers on that roof. And this was pretty much, I would describe it as a roof without a slope. And I say that as somebody that knows a little bit about a sloped roof because I fell off a roof 3 stories when I was in construction many years ago and broke up my face and busted up my arm. And I always say to people, I woke up after hitting my head and I was a conservative. It knocked some sense into me. Trying to be funny, not really. But there's nothing funny about what's going on here. The security threat is real. And one of the things that really has troubled me about the Harris-Biden administration, without trying to get too political, the fact that we have allowed in 11 million unvetted illegal immigrants into this country. We have dozens of Americans we know that have been murdered and raped and victims of violent crime. And the worst part is we know we have known terrorists in the country. I've been saying this on my radio show and right here on this news channel, on my TV show, that it is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. But I pray to God that I'm wrong, that those terrorists that we know are in the country, and the Biden administration will not release the names of the countries that they know that they are from. Fox News Digital has been requesting that for a long time. But they are here, and I believe that they are plotting and planning and scheming their next 9/11 or worse on this country. And it is the greatest national security threat we face, and all of it was preventable, and that bothers me a lot.
Sean, it's Joe Concha. We're 9 weeks and one day since Donald Trump nearly lost his life by a millimeter in Butler, Pennsylvania. Right. He turned his head towards that screen to read a chart. If he doesn't do that, he was killed, right? And now here we are, 64 days later, and the president nearly loses his life again. What really bothered me about what happened then was how quickly the media did not talk about that story, did not talk about the suspect. Within like 2 weeks, before we knew it, it's as if it never happened. Does this happen here again? Because we cannot create a new normal around a president nearly being assassinated, but yet that's what happened last time. Do you think this happens again here?
Well, Joe, you know, your media analysis is always spot on, and I think you're right about this in more ways than you may know. You're right. It kind of got pushed to the side, and we've kind of been ignoring all of that. And what really bothered me, if we have unfortunately, sadly, tragically covered too many school shootings over the course of our careers, all of us on this program tonight. And when you think about most of those school shootings, we know within hours who the person is. We've identified where they stand politically on social media. We start learning about their background. Maybe they had trouble or problems or whatever it happened to be. We know more within 5 hours than we learned in a month after Butler, PA, and that is troublesome.
She thinks him.
So I think that at the end of the day, that we really need more information and not less information when it comes to shootings like this, and the media needs to not ignore this. I don't want to see any elected official ever in any situation where they're threatened, and this is not political for me in any way. And I want our nation safe and secure. And that's why I don't want defund, dismantle, and no bail laws. That's why I want a border wall. That's why I want vetting for people coming into this country. I want background checks. I want health checks. I want a means test so you're not a financial burden on the American people. These are simple solutions. The American people will sort the political side of this out in 51 days. But this has got to be a top-of-mind issue. Our safety, our security in our towns and our cities, at our border. And I think Americans, you can't pursue happiness if you're not safe and secure. And the media has a job to cover it. The media has not shown the video. They don't mention the names of the people that have been murdered and raped and victims of violent crime. I think one of the most underreported stories, politically speaking, I'm transitioning a little bit here, is the fact that Kamala Harris laughed at Donald Trump and his border wall. He says a bunch of terrorists are going to want to invade the country. Well, now we have hundreds of them in the country, and we have people from Iran and Syria and Egypt and Afghanistan, tens of thousands from China and Russia and Venezuela. And they are in the country, and we see the result of it. But then she takes it a step further. She wants free housing, health care, education, and free sex change surgery for illegal immigrants. And most Americans don't know this yet, and voting starts early this week in Pennsylvania. Now, that is a disservice from the media that you cover, Joe, better than anybody, to the entire country. Because America, if they're going to have a really, really fair choice in November, they need to know about this. Now, I'm going to make this challenge. And for the record, when the Biden administration wouldn't give Robert F. Kennedy Jr. a Secret Service protection, even though I disagree with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., in light of his family background, his uncle was murdered, his father was murdered, they were both assassinated, they denied him Secret Service protection for the longest time until after the shooting in Butler, and I had been advocating for him to get that. The minute after he supported Donald Trump, that was it. They took his Secret Service protection away. That, to me, they need a complete reevaluation of who in the political arena needs support. And one other issue that is political that I will bring up. We need to re-examine what happened in the summer of 2020. We had 574 riots. We had dozens of dead Americans. We had thousands of cops injured with bricks, rocks, bottles, Molotov cocktails. We had billions of dollars in property damage. Vice President Walz would not call in the National Guard, opened up the windows of his family home to smell burning rubber, the smell of freedom, or whatever he called it. And Kamala Harris, 4 days after a police precinct in Minneapolis was burned to the ground, she was out tweeting out a bail fund to let the rioters out of jail, then goes on with Colbert and says, those rioters aren't going to stop. They shouldn't stop. And we're not going to stop. Well, where's Liz Cheney when you need her? Because that kind of sounds like rioting and insurrection support. So I think these are political issues that I know you're going to be talking about the rest of the hour.
Well, we will for sure. Sean, it's Alicia again. I just have one more question.
Yeah.
Just wondering, you know, when there was a reporter in that news conference earlier who said that there were 25 of us, referring to the reporters, wondering how this was able to happen. And then the sheriff said, you know, he's not the sitting president. In the room that I was sitting in, everyone gasped. Is this a moment for President Biden where he needs to, where the onus is on him to go above and beyond all protocols and make a decision? We're 51 days from the election, that Donald Trump needs the kind of protection that he deserves.
I think it's been a moment for them since Butler. I think it was a moment. I think they should have had the common sense to give Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in light of what happened to his father and his uncle being assassinated. He deserved Secret Service protection. There were a few of us that were outspoken, begging for it on his behalf, even though I don't have a political agreement with him on a lot of issues. I think that after Butler, there was some improvement. But how did somebody get within 300 yards of Donald Trump with a scoped AK-47 and have an ability come within really seconds of assassinating him again? How is that possible? That is not, for those that know firearms and know rifles, that is not a difficult shot. The shot in Butler, as Joe pointed out, it is a miracle that that man is alive today. And as Eric Trump said, how many more lives will my father have? How many more assassination attempts is he going to be able to withstand? This is beyond Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They need the resources to cover the entire perimeter for every presidential candidate, every elected official at the highest level. And that means the perimeter is defined by any distance by which somebody with a high-powered rifle can reach a target with a certain degree of any degree of accuracy, and they've got to do a better job. 300 yards is a layup shot for anybody with a marginal amount of skill. It is sad.
All right, Sean
Tragic.
Hannity, thank you so much for
Sean.
joining us and especially
Thanks,
for
guys.
letting us
I
know
love
that
your
the
show, by the
president's
way.
doing okay today.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
I'm 56 from the U.S., from North Carolina originally, so I live in Hawaii now, so flew all the way from Hawaii here. To me, you know, a lot of the other conflicts are gray, but this conflict is definitely black and white. This is about good versus evil.
What are you doing here in Ukraine?
My initial goal was to come and fight. I think, you know, everybody around the globe should be motivated to come here and support the Ukrainians and support the army. So plan B was to come here to Kyiv and promote getting more people here. You know, we need thousands and thousands and thousands of people here fighting with the Ukrainians.
So you are working with the International Legion?
Yes.
And you are trying to convince people to help, to donate, and to join?
Yeah.
Please tell me who you are and why are you here?
I'm 56 from the U.S., from North Carolina originally, so I live in Hawaii now, so flew all the way from Hawaii here. So the question as far as why I'm here, to me, you know, a lot of the other conflicts are gray, but this conflict is definitely black and white. This is about good versus evil. This is a storybook, you know, any movie we've ever watched, this is definitely evil against good. I mean, we're battling a situation here where, you know, the Ukrainians and the rest of the world are caring and kind and generous and unselfish and take care of one another. And it's just a matter of, you know, we need to stand up for that. That is the most important thing in the world, is just to show human beings that we're kind and we're caring and that we take care of one another and that the world is united so that we feed each other and make sure that, you know, we all move forward as one collective whole unit. So, you know, we feel the pain of one country's failure and their conflicts, and we enjoy the successes of other countries that are doing good, and we all work together. And for some reason, Russia does not grasp this concept that we're all one unit, and we have to get along and work together and be normal human beings. This is 2022. We have to work together. It seems asinine that we have a leader in a country that does not understand the concept of being unselfish and being generous and being kind and just the basic moral values that are required by human beings these days. It blows my mind.
And what are you doing here in Ukraine?
My initial goal was to come and fight. I think, you know, everybody around the globe should be motivated to come here and support the Ukrainians and support the army, no matter what gender, age, anything. Everybody should be here supporting the army. But I'm 56, so initially they were like, well, I have no military experience, so they're like, you're not an ideal candidate. So they said, not right this minute. So plan B was to come here to Kyiv and promote getting more people here. You know, we need thousands and thousands and thousands of people here fighting with the Ukrainians. We need, you know, we've got 190 countries around the world, and we need thousands from all of them. If the governments will not send their official military, then we civilians have to pick up the torch and make this thing happen. And we've gotten some wonderful people here, but it's a small fraction of the number that should be here. If we have 5,000, you know, to 10,000 people here fighting, you know, that is just a minuscule amount of the 5 billion people on the globe. You know, we need everyone here fighting. That's why I'm in Kyiv. So every project that I promote is about getting people here to support the Ukrainians. We were at a critical juncture in this war where we are sitting on the fence as far as whether good or evil is going to win. You know, right now we're looking at a situation where the world is waning in its thinking that this is important or not. And we're at a point where, all right, are we going to stand for humanity, for human rights, for everything that is good with the world? Or are we just going to ignore it? If everybody is complacent and doesn't join this fight, then guess who's going to win? It might take 10 years, but we're going to lose this battle if everyone around the globe does not stop what they're doing and get off the couch and come to Ukraine and defend the human rights of everyone around the globe. This is the most important thing going on in the world today. So sitting around and letting life go on as normal and complaining about gas prices and complaining about, your luxury life in whatever country you live in is unacceptable. As human beings, we must support each other. We cannot turn our backs on anyone around the world and expect the problem to go away. So I've been dealing with Russia for my entire life. We had one period where it was okay, but now we've let it slip back into terrorism. So it's just, the world needs to respond. Why world leaders are not sending military is beyond me. We're going to have to elect new leaders the next go around that have a backbone and that have the fortitude to say, hey, we're not going to tolerate this type of behavior. This type of behavior is unacceptable anywhere, any place. So it's totally unacceptable. And why people are not responding, I do not know.
What impressed you the most since you are here?
My trip to Irpin was pretty emotional. So, going and seeing the buildings that were burned and destroyed and things of that nature. I think more emotional for me is just talking to the guys that have come here. When you talk to a 20-year-old guy that sold everything he owns to come here and fight, that is heroism. He's come here to risk his life for humanity, for the Ukrainians. Guys that sell everything they own to come here and support the Ukrainians while others sit at home and do nothing. It's totally mind-blowing how we have this divide of people that are selfless and courageous and wonderful and willing to sell everything they own to come here and support, keep people from getting killed, to shelter kids and protect Ukrainians, and others that just, want to sit at home and not. It's just, it's an indictment of our entire human society to say, hey, where do we stand? Do we stand for good? Or do we just not care? I mean, does the world not care? That's the feeling that I wrestle with every day in my interactions with everybody. Every one of us is responsible for the outcome of this war. Every one of us, by our actions and what we do. And, when I call back home and say, hey, I need $5 so I can, put enough money together to get a vest for a Ukrainian, and I get no response, I'm like, I'm not sure that the world is as wonderful as I once thought it was. I had thought that everyone would respond, very generously and unselfishly, and you don't have to come, but if I ask for $5 to buy a vest to save a Ukrainian life, it seems like that would be a no-brainer. But I increasingly get more disappointed in humanity, and I'm beginning to question whether or not we're going to end up on the right side of this equation.
So you are working with the International Legion.
Yes.
And you are trying to convince people to help, to donate, and to join.
Yeah.
My final question is, what would you say to the people in order to convince them to join the International Legion, or to donate for it, or to be involved in the humanitarian aid to Ukraine?
Right. It's just extremely important, the whole thing. As far as joining the military, yes, if you have some military experience or know people with military experience, encouraging them to come and fight. We have units all over the place. So, there were some leadership issues initially, but we've got so many units available to us: Georgian, Crimean, Ukrainian, Territorial Defense, Foreign Legion. We have, so many paramilitary groups. I put a 74-year-old Japanese guy in a unit. So, you know, we have girls in units. So we have two girls that are in the unit up the street. So any gender, any age, any skill level to no skill level. But yeah, if you want to fight, come here and see me, and I'll put you in a unit so you can go fight. But regardless of that, we should have thousands upon thousands of people standing here with the Ukrainians. This Maiden Square, Independence Square, we should have millions of people in this square, filling the square from every country around the world. And why we don't, I don't understand. I'm here every day with all the flags from all the supporting countries, with the memorials for the people that have died. And, you know, I've had several people come, but just a handful, you know. So it blows my mind that I'm standing here alone without thousands of people from every country, from Asia, from Africa, from Australia, from Canada, from everywhere in South America, every place.
Europe.
Europe, everywhere. We need everybody here. You know, if you have no skills, just come. You know, we need to be cheerleaders. Just being here and saying, hey, I support the Ukrainians, and I support human rights, and I support good and generosity and caring and kindness and altruism, and it's just, you know, we need to show the world that we care, and it's essential. You know, if you don't do any work at all, just being here and supporting and showing them that we care for our fellow human beings is the most important thing we can do.
Breaking news. You're looking at video of law enforcement agents descending upon a Ka'ava home about 2:30 this afternoon following an apparent assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump. The suspect is Ryan Ralph. Neighbors confirmed the 58-year-old was living at the home, but added they haven't seen him there in weeks. Officials believe Ralph intended to shoot Trump at his Florida golf club in West Palm Beach earlier today.
Blows my mind they do something like that.
Officials say Donald Trump was not hurt. This is the second time in 2 months there's been an apparent attempt on the former president's life. Manuel Bojorquez reports.
Former President Donald Trump is safe and unharmed.
The Secret Service spotted a man with a rifle along the fence at Trump International Golf Club just after 1:30 this afternoon. The suspect was armed with an AK-47 style rifle and a scope, about 300 to 500 yards away from the former president. Investigators say he also had a GoPro camera and backpacks containing ceramic tile. Secret Service agents fired at least 4 shots at the suspect, but it's unclear whether that person fired back. A witness saw a man running out of the bushes and jump into a black SUV. That witness took a photo of the suspect's car and license plate. About 30 minutes north of the golf club, police stopped an SUV with the same license plate number. Police took the witness up there to confirm they had the right person.
The Secret Service did exactly what they should have done.
Police say the suspect is in custody tonight as they work to find a motive. Trump had returned to Florida this weekend from a West Coast swing that included a Friday night rally in Las Vegas and a Utah fundraiser. Roughly 2 months ago, Trump was shot during an assassination attempt at a rally in Pennsylvania, and a bullet grazed his ear.
The White House says both President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, who is a Democratic presidential nominee, have been briefed on the situation in Florida and will receive updates as the investigation continues. Manuel Bojorquez, CBS News, West Palm Beach, Florida.
And court records show, besides a few traffic infractions, Ralph has no criminal record here in Hawaii. Eddie Dowd continues our team coverage.
Neighbors we talked to had nothing but nice things to say about the 58-year-old, calling him a skilled carpenter who was known for helping people in the area with home improvement projects.
2 women were seen leaving the Ka'ava property before 2 unmarked SUVs showed up. Ralph's neighbors told us they were shocked to hear that he's the suspect in another assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump.
Always willing to give, always willing to help. Blows my mind they do something like that.
He helped a lot of the people around here, yeah. But he hasn't talked too much about politics. I mean, they did have a Biden sign in the front of the house, but other than that, no, not really.
Hawaii News Now even talked to Roth back in 2018 after his home was flooded.
And we had building materials under the house, so all the lumber under the house started floating out into the yard. We recently just jacked the house up 2 or 3 feet.
We're told Roth considered also donating to a tiny home project in 2019 that the state and Homemade Hawaii constructed in Kalailoa. A source who worked on the project told HNN Investigates that in the end, the 58-year-old decided not to donate. The source described Roth as opinionated, but added he never showed any kind of propensity towards violence during their interactions. His son Oran gave this statement to CNN saying, quote, "Ryan is my father, and I don't have any comment beyond a character profile of him as a loving and caring father and honest, hardworking man. I don't know what's happened in Florida, and I hope things have just been blown out of proportion because from the little I've heard, it doesn't seem like the man I know to do anything crazy, much less violent. He's a good father and a great man. I hope you can portray him in an honest light," end quote.
Now, it's unclear just how long Ralph has lived in Hawaii. His police records here show he was charged with driving without a license and not having insurance in 2020. But those cases were dismissed. He also had 2 other traffic infractions. Other reports say he lived in North Carolina for a time, where he is said to have criminal history. He also was interviewed by the New York Times in 2023, where he said he wanted to go and fight in Ukraine after Russia's invasion. Eddie Dowd, Hawaii News Now.
And here's a live look at Ralph's home in Ka'ava tonight. Law enforcement who were there earlier this afternoon left just a little while ago. Be sure to stay with Hawaii News Now, both on air and online, as we continue to track this developing story.
Now it's time for Lefties Losing It. Let's start, Lefties, with a little frivolity before we get into the serious stuff, the vile, reckless rhetoric of the increasingly radical left that has incited yet another assassination attempt against President Trump. And I regret to inform you that the real Kamala is back, and I have the videos to prove it. But let's start with this lefty dude losing it and threatening a young man who he says insulted him. Was there a misgendering?
Get the out of my face now!
Ooh, that was very rude of you.
Get the out of my face!
Do you want to go to jail, sir, ma'am? I don't really know what to call you.
You're done, man.
I'm done.
Get the police. You just insulted me.
Ooh, that escalated quickly, and the anger levels did not diminish with this lefty losing it. Here comes the threats.
And I could tell the police to get you.
I'm vegan, so don't say that. Listen.
You told me, man, you really get the out of my way right now.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
You do not have a release. I will sue you.
You're gonna sue him? Don't sue him, man, because we're trying to just.
I don't have a. You do not have a release. If you post this, I will destroy you. I will destroy you.
Destroy you? Geez, that seems unnecessary, but there is a happy ending to this interaction. Watch as the lefty losing it considers taking off his shirt for a punch-on before reconsidering, and then the surprise ending.
I will destroy you.
Keep going on. I got my crew with me now. I got my crew. Yeah! Yeah! What's up? Woo! Who won? Who's next?
Oh, kids these days. And talking about kids, look at how this little tyke goes from happy to horrified when he spots a furry. Can't blame him. Look, I'm sure after many years of indoctrination in the public school system, that kid will learn to recognise that furries and the ever-expanding 2SL, LGBTQIA++ community are all stunning and brave, always. And he better learn that there are more than 2 genders.
How many genders are there?
I feel like there's 2, because like transgender.
No, Tara, stop.
Why? Don't say that on camera. Yeah, but I feel like you either switch from a back to a girl. No, like stop, you stop, can stop, switch back and forth. Stop. I feel like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to be, it's fine. It's okay. Yeah, but I feel like they switch back and forth. Like, I know. Yeah, but like, it doesn't really matter. Like, there's like you can be anything you want to be. It doesn't matter. Come on, stop. All right, I'm sorry.
There was North Korean vibes there. The fear of saying something offensive to trans activists or to leftists in general, the fear of being cancelled. The Chinese Communist Party has a social credit system to keep its citizens in check, and it looks like something similar exists in the West. The self-censorship and fear there was real. Now to the ladies of The View, and here Joy Behar indulges in more crazy, reckless rhetoric, claiming that Donald Trump is such a threat that every artist must back Kamala to save the Republic.
In this emergency that we're in, I think that behooves artists should come out and speak for Kamala against Donald Trump, because he is an existential threat to the country. What do you say to that?
They speak like this even after an attempt on Trump's life 2 months ago that left a man dead, and Trump escaped death by millimetres. And talking about reckless rhetoric, here is Democrat Rep. Jasmine Crockett saying MAGA is a domestic threat just a few hours before another attempt on Donald Trump's life.
I talk about the fact that when we swore in, finally, in January, that we swore to defend against those that are coming against us, whether they are domestic or international. And right now, I feel like MAGA in general, they are threats to us domestically. And we see it time and time again.
But don't worry, it's not like the media will hold any of these people accountable. Kamala Harris wasn't even asked about her and the Democrats' inflammatory rhetoric in the lead up to the assassination attempt during that debate. Here's just a small sample of prominent Democrats, actors, singers, politicians, news anchors, inciting violence against Trump and Republicans in general.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take you behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And the lies and incitement has never stopped, not even after that first assassination attempt, not even after today's developments. Indeed, MSNBC decided that it is Trump and his camp who need to tone down the violent rhetoric.
We do not know, again, the source of any gunshot or gunshots. We don't know who's responsible for this. The whole thing has yet to be 100% confirmed from start to finish how this all played out. But do you expect to hear anything from the Trump campaign about toning down the rhetoric, toning down the violence, or would that be atypical of the former president?
Unbelievable. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You don't hate the leftist media enough. You think you do, but you don't. And here is Lester Holt on NBC blaming Trump, not the crazy leftists trying to kill him.
Today's apparent assassination attempt comes amid increasingly fierce rhetoric on the campaign trail itself. Mr. Trump, his running mate J.D. Vance continue to make baseless claims about Haitian immigrants in Ohio.
Disgraceful, deplorable, but predictable. And talking about baseless lies, here is Kamala at the so-called debate, which was really a 3 versus 1 setup. Remember her repeating that dangerous Charlottesville lie?
Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side.
That ugly, dangerous, divisive lie has been debunked again and again, even by left-wing sites like Snopes. I first debunked it 7 years ago. But here's the proof one more time. This is what Trump actually said about the white supremacists.
And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay?
Could it be any clearer? And it's all on video, and yet they persist with this lie. And of course, the ABC moderators refused to fact-check that verifiable lie. They knew it was a lie when she said it. And while we're on the Veep, the real Kamala is back, the weirdly laughing, incoherent vice president with the multiple accents. Here's another one.
Hello to all my divine nine brothers and sisters and my sorors. And to all my HBCU brothers and sisters.
And Kamala did another interview. It did not go well. She was incoherent, obtuse, and made zero effort to answer the questions asked.
When we talk about bringing down prices and making life more affordable for people, what are one or two specific things you have in mind for that?
Well, I'll start with this. I grew up a middle-class kid. My mother raised my sister and me. She worked very hard. She was able to finally save up enough money to buy our first house when I was a teenager. I grew up in a community of hardworking people, you know, construction workers and nurses and teachers.
What do well-kept lawns have to do with the question asked? And yes, I noticed the start of the answer was almost word for word what she said during the debate when she failed to answer the same question. And we're only halfway through her incoherent response.
And I was raised to believe and to know that all people deserve dignity. And that we as Americans have a beautiful character. You know, we have ambitions and aspirations and dreams.
Word salad Kamala is back. It's little wonder that after the debate, when Kamala and the president visited New York for 9/11 commemorations, it was Trump that got the biggest cheers, and the same thing happened in Pennsylvania. Have a look at this remarkable footage from Shanksville in the Keystone State. The reaction when Biden and Harris enter compared to when Trump enters a few moments later. No wonder President Biden was donning a Trump hat. And no, this image isn't AI, it's a real image. Here's how it happened.
Come on. I ain't going that far. Yeah. Instead, do a selfie. There you go.
Plenty more Lefties content to come with my next guest. He's the host of Primetime with Alex Stein on Blaze TV. Alex, let's start with a Trump ad that dropped post-debate calling out Kamala Harris for her many lies. The lies the Democrat Dave and Davis refused to fact-check on ABC. Let's have a look.
I will not ban fracking. I'm in favor of banning fracking. It has to be legislation, but yes, and this is something I've taken on in California. I have a history of working on this issue. When it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the former president said stand back and stand by.
But you have to go home now. We have to have peace.
It's a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism.
We all sing happy tunes and sing Merry Christmas and wish each other Merry Christmas. How dare we speak Merry Christmas? How dare we?
Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away, so stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program.
Belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page.
Don't you find some of their stuff to just be plain weird?
Alex, how do you see today's events and the fallout from the debate?
Well, what transpired today is very alarming because it makes me think that maybe the liberals don't have enough to fortify this election, and the only way to stop Donald Trump from winning is to unfortunately assassinate him, or I guess maybe scare him into not running, which I don't think is possible with Donald Trump. But, you know, when it comes to the debate, what I'm actually mad about is that Donald Trump didn't pander a little bit more, because Kamala Harris was just pandering and lying the entire time. When Donald Trump, you know, she accused people of leaving Donald Trump's rally early, I would have liked to have seen Donald Trump said, yeah, maybe people left the rally early because I was shot. So, you know, the debate, I think Donald Trump could have done a little bit better, but I would have liked him to have mentioned how he helped out so many struggling families during the pandemic with the $1,200 stimulus, just small stuff like that. I wish he would have taken a little bit of their playbook, not necessarily lie, but talk about some of the more leftist things that he did in office that actually helped all the American people, because she's trying to be fake conservative. I would like Trump to maybe appease the liberals a little bit.
Be a fake lefty. Oh, that will confuse people. Now, one man who's responsible for updating us on what happened today with this second assassination attempt and the arrest of this character, this dude is called Jeffrey Veltri. He's the special agent in charge of the Miami field office for the FBI. But Alex, this is a man who seems to have extreme TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. Indeed, FBI officials ordered Veltri last year to scrub his Facebook page and delete the anti-Trump vitriol since Miami's field office covers Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate, and it wasn't a great look. Whistleblowers told the House Judiciary Committee last year Veltri was adamantly and vocally anti-Trump. So why was he appointed to this role? That seems to be an issue. You would hope people who are serving in that capacity are not in any way political.
Well, it's a major conflict of interest, but it just proves the point for all the people that are saying there's a deep state. This is what we mean by a deep state, that there are unelected bureaucrats that are in some of the highest positions of our law enforcement that hate our current president or the man that's running for president. And that's the problem, is we can't really stop these individuals because we didn't vote for them. Just like the CIA says, listen, we're not too worried about the president because the president changes every 4 to 8 years while the CIA stays the same. So this is the deep state that we're exactly pointing the finger at and trying to expose. And a lot of people will call us crazy. But when you have high up officials in the FBI that are conducting all of these investigations of the people that are potentially trying to kill Donald Trump, and they have a bias against Donald Trump, that would make me think that we have a crooked Department of Justice, and this needs to be called out. And I'm happy that you're bringing attention to this, because it's something that the American media is much too afraid to do.
But everyday people know about it, Alex, and you've seen some of the research on this where they've polled people's trust in these institutions, and it's at record lows because they know they've become politicized. They know there's this two-tier system that's operating, and it's dangerous. It's really, you want to have the public have faith in these institutions. And one of the institutions the public doesn't seem to trust so much these days is the media, and who could blame them? I'm going to play you this clip from MSNBC. There's many others like it. Now, these hosts today are seemingly blaming Trump for his own second assassination attempt, or whatever you want to call it, at the golf course today. Have a look.
He's going to reach out to his supporters and say, let's take this down. We do not know, again, the source of any gunshot or gunshots. We don't know who's responsible for this. The whole thing has yet to be 100% confirmed from start to finish how this all played out. But do you expect to hear anything from the Trump campaign about toning down the rhetoric, toning down the violence?
Alex, we've heard similar sentiments. I played some of them just previously from NBC, CNN, ABC also have commentary that seems to be blaming the victim. How is this happening?
Well, it's not a surprise, to be honest. And I think they're doing it on purpose to try to encourage more people to take shots at Donald Trump. If you look at this guy, Ruth, when he was arrested, he seemed almost happy because the last person that shot Donald Trump, the entire media has memory hold it and basically stopped talking about it during the debate. No, neither candidate was questioned about the assassination attempt. So it just shows you that any attempt on Donald Trump's life is something that the media will probably cheerlead. And if it's something bad does happen, they're not going to even cover it. So we don't even get the truth. So our media is terrible here. The mainstream media, it's just, you can't really trust them whatsoever.
Well, you've got activist journalists there who are allowing really their opinions to masquerade as news. If you're an opinion show like this, then by all means, give your opinion. But if you're pretending to be a newscaster who's absolutely unbiased and bringing us all the news in a fair and balanced fashion, well, you can't let your own politics interfere with that. And I think they let their own politics interfere with that every single day. You mentioned the debate, and one of the things that was talked about during the Harris-Trump debate was this notion of women having late-term abortions right up to possibly the birth of the child, or post certainly the point where the child would be viable outside the womb. Kamala dismissed this talk as insulting.
Nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America.
But even lefty outlet The Atlantic has interviewed a doctor who performs exactly that sort of procedure, a man called Warren Hearn, who insists a baby is a fetus until it is born alive, who calls pro-life activists fascists and performs abortions for women whose pregnancies are over 32 weeks. That's around 1 month before the pregnancy is considered full term and weeks after a fetus is considered viable. He operates in Colorado, where there are no gestational limits on abortion. And Alex, Colorado is hardly the only state with no gestational limits. So again, another issue that wasn't picked up by the ABC moderators when we know abortion is such a huge issue in this election.
Well, abortion's a very huge issue, and there's a reason why they have to lie about this, because even people that are pro-choice believe there should be a term limit of when a person can have an abortion. Most people meet in the middle that should be, done within the first trimester, some people the second trimester, but about everybody would agree that the third trimester is way too far to have an abortion. So they have to lie and say that this isn't happening when we have the governor of Virginia, Governor Northam, saying that this does happen and that they will keep the baby comfortable while the parent decides whether or not to euthanize a baby. So this is not a right-wing conspiracy. This is something that's real and that even people that are pro-choice are against. So that's why they have to lie.
You're so right. This is a far more nuanced debate than the media give credit for. And there's been so much polling in the US on this. And a clear majority, even those who are pro-choice in the first trimester, are against abortion for the second and certainly the third trimester. There is so much information and data on that, and it's never really discussed. It's you're either for or against, and there's nothing in between. Now, Kamala Harris laughed when Donald Trump claimed migrants in Ohio were eating pet dogs and cats. But now we've got New York City and federal park authorities saying they need to beef up resources near Jamaica Bay in Queens to ward off people torturing and killing animals. The New York Post revealed animal sacrifices are surging in the area, with at least 8 animals, including pigs, dogs and rats, found dead or maimed since late July. And Alex, we've got former Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy announcing he's going to travel to Springfield, Ohio this week to speak with the locals there, hear their concerns. They've town of less than 60,000 people who've had 20,000 migrants from Haiti deposited into their town, causing all sorts of issues. No one was speaking about Springfield and towns like it before the debate and Trump's comments about they're eating the pets. And now it's become a focal point.
Well, it is happening, Rita. I mean, there's no lie about it because we're mixing different cultures. And in Haiti, you know, they do have food issues, and it's more likely where they would eat a dog or cat. And, you know, I think that Trump protecting the cats is what gave him an extra life today. On that golf course, those cats granted him with an extra 9 lives because he saved their lives. But let's be real, you know, not all Haitians are eating pets, but it is happening. I mean, it is actually happening. There's police reports of people complaining about it, yet David Murder in the debate wants to say that the city manager says it's not an issue. If one cat gets eaten, in my opinion, it's an issue. So this is where we're at, is that people's culture are not necessarily mixing with the American culture that we currently have. And there's other foreign countries where they eat cats and dogs, where it's not taboo. But here in America, it is taboo. And I think to culturally acclimate, they have to stop eating the cats and dogs.
But I think it's so much more than that. I mean, whether that's happening or not is really almost not the issue. It's the fact that this unchecked migration, illegal and legal, and the impact it's having on these little towns that have kind of been forgotten. And by that comment being made and the reaction to it, it's actually bringing attention to towns like Springfield, Ohio, and those people are finally being heard, getting some media coverage. So it's crazy how it works. It might actually be one of the more effective things that comes out of that debate. Alex Stein, always a pleasure, and you're looking very Trump-esque today with that outfit. I don't know if you intended for that to happen, but you pulled it off.
Well, 100%, Rita. I'm supporting my guy, Donald Trump, with the red tie. You know it. And they're 0 for 2. Gosh, I hope they stop trying to kill our president. It's very scary, Rita.
It is actually scary. Thank you, Alex.
We have this just in, and we will show our viewers. This is body camera footage from the Martin County Police Department. You'll see this during the arrest. Now, we heard from Martin County that they did not have dash cam. However, they did, in fact, have body camera footage from the officers conducting the arrest of Ryan Ralph. Let's watch.
Driver, take 2 steps to your right. Take 2 steps to your right. Come back. Driver, walk straight back. Keep walking. Keep that long.
Now, you saw there the suspect had his shirt over his head, Paul. He does seem to be calm in demeanor, which is a bit odd given the circumstance. What do you make as you watch that?
So that was something called a felony car stop, which you're allowed to do procedurally, legally, et cetera, which is you have indicia of a serious felony. They ran it correctly. You stay off, you triangulate, you tell him what to do, he gets out. New York, it's a little different. The guy gets on his knees, you put his hands behind his back. But the bottom line is they were being super, super cautious. Relative to his demeanor, very clearly, he's not that surprised. You know, if this happens to you or I, you're freaked out, right? What the heck's going on here? He doesn't seem very surprised to see that they're on him. They got him pretty quickly. And I do think, just to close the loop, you know, go out on a limb here a little bit, I do think at some point this guy's going to start to talk, because that's why people like this do this kind of thing. This is how they talk to the world. So may wait till a trial, and he'll make it a show trial, but at some point we'll start to hear him chirping up.
Yeah, Harrison, it was during your hour when we heard from the Martin County Sheriff, and he said there were no helicopters in the air. They were able to detain this individual via car, but it was 40 miles, more than 40 miles from where this happened. It's really a miracle. There was a bystander that got the license plate, and then this.
Yeah, he also said that, you know, pretty thick traffic on a Saturday, and that it was, you know, thank God, by the grace of God, that they would even catch that particular vehicle, that car. And he wanted to give all credit to those road cops who were on the ground going to get him. You know, the drones, the helicopters, those are also another thing that I've often wondered about. When do those get deployed? Would they have gotten deployed near the house, near the golf course? Would they be deployed with the search, that sort of thing? There are a lot of questions. We have a lot of technology. All we ever talk about is, the energy-sucking artificial intelligence and how it's going to ruin everybody's lives. Are there ways that we're not using it right now? Face recognition for moving vehicles, that sort of thing. These guys were heroes to catch him. They were out on mile 110, I think is what Sheriff Snyder said of Martin County. But could we be aided by some of that technology that we say we're so afraid of? We better game everything we have.
Emily, and you wonder about the psychological profile of someone like this. He's calm at a moment when most people would be frantic. He's laughing in court today with his lawyer, seems to be almost jovial from what is being reported. We need to understand where someone just breaks and can act this calm in a situation like this.
Well, at a minimum, he has inappropriate affect, obviously. We know that he was known over 100 times, 100 incidents in the North Carolina county that he resided in for quite some time. I'm exhausted by saying he was known to law enforcement, and I know Americans are too. And certainly in this specific situation with a second assassination attempt on a former president's life. And I wonder, Paul, just tactically, without giving away trade secrets, but talk to us about the fact that law enforcement knew AK-47 was in that vehicle, and yet I noted that one SWAT guy's gun wasn't pointed out. Talk to us about how that played out there.
Well, I mean, it's hard to see who's where here in that video, so I don't say he may already know that the guy is secure. Generally, you get him out of the car, you walk him backwards, and you make him face away from you so you can't see what he's doing. He can't see what you're doing.
Right.
He goes on his knees, hands behind his back, then you approach from two sides like this. The whole point of it is that you see everything, he sees nothing. So it's hard to tell from that video, but somebody, I can guarantee you, in light of what had happened and what they found at the scene, was trained on him in case he had some tricks up his sleeve. And then, of course, they got to clear the car.
Yes.
So.
And Martha, I mean, he has his shirt over his head. I'm not sure what he was trying to do in that moment. It all is quite odd.
Yeah, well, he failed in his mission, but he was still smiling. He seems to like the attention that he's getting, and he has been trying to get attention for years. I just want to point out one other thing about where he was. When they say 300 to 500 yards away from the president, but he was waiting for the president to get right in front of him. That's why his camera was lodged in that fence, because the advance man went a hole ahead. So he was waiting for that moment when the president would be playing golf right in front of him. So this was a very, very particular plan. This guy's been working on this for a long time. Who knows? He may have been lying in those bushes weekend after weekend. And yesterday he got lucky. And thankfully, President Trump got lucky again, too.
Emily, and one thing Martha said is really important, that he wanted attention. We're learning more and more about his efforts to go to D.C. and be in front of Congress and meet with lawmakers even. He's not talking now, but to Paul's point earlier, that doesn't mean he's not going to talk in the future. This guy clearly wants attention, notoriety.
And in the past, he had made very public comments over and over again about, for example, the situation in Ukraine. I note that the most frightening people often are those that have nothing to lose. And this individual strikes me as exactly that. He had his mission, he had his purpose. It was his self-defined mission and purpose. But at the end of the day, he didn't have a family that he was coming home to. He didn't have assets. He has nothing to lose. And that is what makes him so dangerous, because he's willing to risk it all.
He reportedly has children, though. And again, we're just collecting all of these details in the home. That is absolutely right.
I just wanted to point this out. If, in fact, he had a list of lawmakers that he met on Capitol Hill, we got to regame how we protect all of our lawmakers now.
Yeah.
I mean, if this guy was having any kind of a meeting more than once or twice with some lawmakers on Capitol Hill and nothing about him flagged, like that one reporter this morning, we've got Newsweek who's interviewed him, people who were kind of red flagged by, well, he was weird and he was, some things about him that maybe would want to make you question, particularly if he's sitting next to an elected leader. So I just want to know, how deep did it get on Capitol Hill that he was around people who were elected leaders? And did anybody just raise their hand and say red flag with this guy? Because I think we've got to regame that whole, have access to everybody. It's tough.
He was a lone gunman from North Carolina and Hawaii. And gosh, can you imagine if it was an Iranian asset or someone sophisticated? All right, more Outnumbered next.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.
some room in here. If I'd have known that, we'd have gone to a bigger area. Okay, just a couple little housekeeping things here, in case you haven't been with me at a press conference. We, meaning the gentlemen that are up here, which is the U.S. Attorney, FBI, Secret Service, we're going to give you everything that we have. We're going to give you the latest updates. They're going to tell you what's going on with the investigation, everything. And then we're going to do a limited amount of questions. So make them good, all right? Don't get into what if and all this. Get legitimate questions. We got it? Yes, sir. Okay, everybody ready? Yes, sir. Okay. We're here today to give an update on the investigation in regards to the incident at Trump International. With me is the U.S. Attorney, the FBI, and the Secret Service. Just to give you a little information, as you well know, the road down there on Summit is still blocked off. It will be blocked off probably for the remainder of today and probably a good portion of tomorrow until some of the investigative things need to be done and finished. But we're accommodating people in and out, getting them to the library, getting them to the post office, so the public is not going to be that far inconvenienced. The security level at Mar-a-Lago is the highest it can possibly be now. The road closures are back in place and will remain there. The checkpoints are in place. And my commitment to the Secret Service is to give them every possible resource from PBSO. Once they determine the level of security that they need, they will get all the resources possible. So having said that, I'll let you talk to the U.S. Attorney.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Mackenzie Lapointe. I am the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. I want to start by expressing my deep gratitude to Sheriff Rick Bradshaw of Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office for hosting today's press conference and for his department's assistance with this matter. I'm truly grateful for your leadership, sir. I'm also pleased to be joined by our partners in federal law enforcement from the FBI and the United States Secret Service, and also from ATF. Joining us today for comments and announcements are Special Agent in Charge Jeffrey B. Veltri of the FBI Miami Field Office, and Acting Director of the U.S. Secret Service, Ron Rowe. I want to also thank the men and women in law enforcement who have been working around the clock in the initial phase of this ongoing investigation. Our partners include federal and local authorities who effectuated the apprehension of the defendant and have aided in ensuring federal charges were filed against him this morning. We're here to announce that Ryan Wesley Routh, 58 years old, of Hawaii, has been charged by a criminal complaint in the Southern District of Florida with firearms offenses related to an incident which occurred yesterday at Trump International Golf Course right here in West Palm Beach. Roth was charged federally with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon and possession and receipt of a firearm with an obliterated serial number. He had his initial appearance today before Magistrate Judge Ryan McCabe in the federal courthouse in West Palm Beach. According to the allegations in the complaint, a U.S. Secret Service agent walking the golf course perimeter saw what appeared to be a rifle poking out of the tree line. After the agent fired a service weapon in the direction of the rifle, a witness saw a man later identified as Ralph fleeing the area in the tree line. Ralph was later apprehended by officers from the Martin County Sheriff's Office in coordination with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. The complaint alleges that in the area of the tree line from which Ralph fled, agents found a digital camera, a backpack, a loaded SKS-style rifle with a scope, and a black plastic bag containing food. The serial number on the rifle was obliterated. According to the complaint, Roth was convicted of felonies in North Carolina in December 2002 and March 2010, and therefore was prohibited from possessing a firearm. The FBI is leading this investigation, this ongoing investigation. As the Attorney General stated earlier today, the FBI is continuing its investigation of this incident as an assassination attempt upon the former president. The investigation remains at its early stages. The entire Justice Department, including the FBI, the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida, and the National Security Division are coordinating closely with our law enforcement partners to fully investigate and prosecute this matter. The charges we're announcing reflect the strong collaboration of the agencies represented here. The U.S. Attorney's Office, the Department of Justice, would be unable to carry forth our mission without the invaluable assistance of our federal, state, and local law enforcement partners. I would like to thank the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and we have Chris Robinson here, Special Agent in Charge, and your Secret Service for the invaluable assistance they are providing, they have been providing. I would also like to recognize the Palm Beach County and Martin County Sheriff's Offices for apprehending the defendant. Again, without the local authorities to assist in those things, it would be literally impossible to accomplish the things we're able to accomplish on the federal side. I want to personally express my gratitude to the attorneys with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida and the Counterterrorism Section of the Justice Department's National Security Division for their nonstop work over the last 24 to 30 hours. Together, we will continue to work tirelessly to ensure accountability and the pursuit of justice. At this time, I will invite FBI Special Agent in Charge Jeff Veltri to the podium. After Special Agent in Charge Veltri completes his remarks, Acting Director of the U.S. Secret Service, Ron Rowe, will provide remarks before we open the floor for a few questions. On our end, given that this is a pending matter before the court and the investigation is ongoing, all comments will be limited. Thank you very much. Jeff.
Good afternoon. For a quick introduction, my name is Jeffrey Veltri, FBI Special Agent in Charge for the Miami Field Office. The FBI immediately responded to the scene here in West Palm Beach, Florida, and we are investigating this matter as an apparent assassination attempt of former President Trump. We view this as extremely serious and are determined to provide answers as to what led up to the events which took place. I want to emphasize we're just a little over 24 hours into this investigation, so we're going to provide as much as we can publicly while our investigation is still ongoing. We must also stress that the United States Attorney's Office is pursuing charges, and that limits some of the details that we can discuss publicly. Yesterday afternoon, Martin County Sheriff's Office took custody of Ryan Routh, and he was transported back to Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. Our FBI agents then attempted to interview him, and he invoked his right to an attorney. In the last 24 hours, the FBI and our partners have been dedicated to investigating the incident and utilizing all available resources. These efforts have included our investigative team and the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida, in conjunction with DOJ's National Security Division, are actively working hand in hand to pursue and subsequently execute search warrants. Thus far, the warrants include a video recording device, subjects' cellular devices, a vehicle, and other electronic devices located at previous known addresses. We are coordinating with the United States Secret Service to complete numerous interviews of agents on scene. We have also interviewed 7 civilian witnesses at the scene, and that is just the beginning. Our FBI's Honolulu and Charlotte field offices have initiated interviews of several family members, friends, and former colleagues of the subject. FBI has deployed several specialty teams and assets from FBI headquarters and our lab division in Quantico to include evidence and critical incident response personnel. The evidence response team is collecting and processing multiple evidentiary items. These range from the rifle, which is an SKS model with a scope and obliterated serial numbers, to 2 bags, the subject's electronics, and what appears to be ceramic tiles. DNA has also been collected from those items, which are being sent to Quantico for testing. We will also process the subject's vehicle for evidence. The Cellular Analysis Survey Team, what we refer to as CAST, conducted thorough analysis of the subject's cellular device locations. The CAST analysis aligns with witnesses' account of the subject's presence at the scene both before and around the time of the incident on September 15th. More specifically, we're continuing to conduct analysis and will be compiling the subject's movements in the days and months leading up to September 15th. Cellular data shows that the subject was in the vicinity of the golf course roughly 12 hours before the engagement with the United States Secret Service. Our investigative teams conducted a neighborhood canvass in an effort to collect and obtain relevant video footage. The subject had an active online presence, and we are going through what he posted and any searches he conducted online. In addition, we're going through media reports and public statements he made that he wanted to recruit Afghan soldiers and others to fight for Ukraine. The FBI has sent multiple requests to companies for returns on the subject's phone and social media accounts. We received several returns and are waiting on additional responses from other companies as well. Our investigative team is completing analysis of the returns and actioning leads as needed, and we anticipate continuing until the FBI knows the full totality of the subject's social media presence. By way of his background, in 2002, as the United States Attorney mentioned, the subject was charged and convicted in North Carolina for possession of a weapon of mass destruction. Law enforcement checks also revealed that from 1997 to 2010, the subject had numerous felony charges for stolen goods. I can also share with you that he was the subject of a previously closed 2019 tip to the FBI where it was alleged he was a felon in possession of a firearm. In following up on the tip, the alleged complainant was interviewed and did not verify, I repeat, did not verify providing the initial information. The FBI passed that information to local law enforcement in Honolulu. On behalf of the FBI, I would like to thank the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office and Martin County Sheriff's Office for their incredible work in actioning the witnesses' information and rapidly apprehending the subject. I would also like to thank the United States Secret Service, the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida, the Department of Justice's National Security Division, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and our FBI field offices in both Honolulu and Charlotte, who have been conducting additional law enforcement activity related to the subject. Your continued partnerships have been invaluable. Oftentimes in law enforcement, we tell citizens to be vigilant and aware of their surroundings. Yesterday, a citizen provided remarkable assistance, which led to the arrest of this subject. We appreciate the public's diligence in passing potential tips and information regarding the subject and this incident to the FBI. If you have any information, please call 1-800-CALL-FBI or go online to tips, that's tips.fbi.gov. With that, let me turn it over to the United States Secret Service Acting Director, Ron Rowe.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yesterday afternoon, this country was reminded of the heightened and dynamic threat environment the United States Secret Service and its protectees face on a daily basis. Immediately following the assassination attempt of former President Donald J. Trump on July 13th, the Secret Service moved to increase assets to an already enhanced security posture for the former president. In the days that followed, President Biden made it clear that he wanted the highest levels of protection for former President Trump and for Vice President Harris. The Secret Service moved to sustain increases in assets and the level of protection sought. And those things were in place yesterday. At approximately 1:30 p.m., former President Trump was playing golf during an off-the-record movement to the Trump International Golf Course. A Secret Service advance agent supporting the front edge of the agency's layered approach to protection encountered an individual attempting to secrete himself in the woodline. This happened, the alleged gunman was on the public side of the fence near the 6th green. A layered approach of security is integral to the Secret Service's protective methodologies, and it's also the key to our success. As former President Trump was moving through the 5th fairway across the course and out of sight of the 6th green, the agent, who was visually sweeping the area of the 6th green, saw the subject armed with what he perceived to be a rifle and immediately discharged his firearm. The subject, who did not have line of sight to the former president, fled the scene. He did not fire or get off any shots at our agent. With reports of gunfire, the former president's close protection detail immediately evacuated the president to a safe location. The protective methodologies of the Secret Service were effective yesterday. The former president's protective apparatus allowed for the early identification of the threat and led to a safe evacuation. The increased assets directed by President Biden were in place yesterday. These included the counter-sniper team elements, counter-surveillance counter-surveillance agents on the exterior, counter-assault teams partnered with local tactical assets from the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, and counter-unmanned aerial system elements. All of these entities were present yesterday. And while all of these assets were in place, as I've said publicly, we must satisfy the basic requirements of the Secret Service's protective methodologies. In partnership with local law enforcement, we did just that. And the agents' hypervigilance and the detailed swift action was textbook. And I commend them and our partners for an exemplary response in keeping former President Trump safe. And I will tell you, having served in local law enforcement in Palm Beach County, I can state that I am tremendously impressed and appreciative for all of the efforts of the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Schneider with the Martin County Sheriff's Office. But what was critical to this was the quick reaction, the response, the hypervigilance of the men and women of the United States Secret Service, who since July 13th have been rising to meet an unprecedented and hyper-dynamic threat environment. And they are rising to this moment, and I could not be more proud of them and the way they have executed, not only yesterday, but what they're doing today and what they are doing tomorrow and what they will always do because it is their duty. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, go slow here, folks. All right. Don't everybody do it at once. Ask who you want to answer the question, and then give the question.
I have a question for you, Director. Is there any evidence to suggest that the suspect knew that Donald Trump would be on the golf course at that time? And was the golf course searched thoroughly before the former president's arrival?
So at this time, it was an off-the-record movement, meaning it was not on the former president's official schedule. And what I go back to is the layered approach. The elements and the methodologies of the Secret Service. There was a front element. It did its job in sweeping ahead of the president. That's what identified this individual who was in that wood line. And the swift action of that agent doing his job, pushing out ahead, sweeping while the president was behind him several hundred yards and several holes away, out of sight from the gunman, did his job. And that was what alerted the detail, and the swift action is what triggered that.
First question, was there any evidence to suggest that the suspect knew that Donald Trump was going to be on that golf course at that time?
Based on what I know now, and it's an active investigation, I don't have any information on that.
Well, Terry Parker.
How many times did your agents go around the perimeter and scope out the golf course during the 12 hours that this guy was holed up in the shrubbery?
So this was an off-the-record movement. It wasn't a site that was on his scheduled, it wasn't part of his schedule. So there was no posting up of it because he wasn't supposed to have gone there in the first place. Garrett Haig.
Have you briefed former President Trump on your findings so far, and has his campaign asked for any changes in his security going forward after yesterday?
So Sorry. So I've had a conversation with the former president. We've explained and we've worked with the campaign. The president is aware that he has highest levels of protection that the Secret Service is providing him. We constantly evaluate based on threat. And yesterday what we show is that our agents and our protective methodologies, and there's a lot of tactical assets in place, things that have been put in place as a result of what happened 60 days ago, those elements are working, and that demonstrates the redundancies that we have. And so we constantly evaluate. We'll of course, look at this and see what lessons learned from it. But as of right now, we are constantly evaluating that threat. And if we need to ratchet up additionally, we will. Yes, sir.
Do we know when Ralph arrived in Florida in general, when he arrived in Palm Beach, the area?
That's a question probably for the FBI.
If he's been at the golf course prior to this scoping it out.
We're in the process of collecting a lot of evidence, and that will be part of that investigation to determine his whereabouts going back quite some time.
Do you have any detail on where he might have gotten the gun?
That's part of the investigation as well. Again, that's going to be a little bit challenged until we're able to determine the serial number on that gun. So we're hopeful to be able to do that. We're still looking into that.
The sheriff mentioned about the highest level of protection, that they would lock down the golf course. Was that a miscommunication then, being that President Biden ordered the highest level of protection?
Do you want to take this, Sheriff? Or do you want me to? Okay. So here's the deal. When it comes to Secret Service protection, we provide the highest level. So, for example, yesterday, counter-assault team elements. I'm not going to go into the number of personnel that we have out there, but we have the highest levels from Secret Service. When we work with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, like, for example, yesterday, during that emergency action response, we had their local tactical team assets partner with our local tactical team assets. We had their helicopter up in the air, providing us 360 and situational awareness of the overhead for if there were any potential threats coming at us. So what we did yesterday was exercise our emergency plan based on the number of tactical assets and the highest level of protection that we are providing. The sheriff and I have talked. Now, clearly, when you go down Southern Boulevard right now and you try to get over to Palm Beach and you see the robust presence that's existing outside of Mar-a-Lago, the heavy uniform presence, the additional assets of the Secret Service. And for those of you that were here in 2017, when the president was in office, when you look at that footprint now and you look at it today, there's not much difference there. There is heavy uniform presence out there. And again, what I go back to is yesterday was an off-the-record movement. Off the record. And the president wasn't even really supposed to go there. It was not on his official schedule. And so we put together a security plan, and that security plan worked.
Do I know that the Secret Service has asked for additional resources?
Being in the vicinity, Special Agent Daughtry, in terms of him being in the vicinity, based on his phone records, is there any evidence to show that Ralph was in the vicinity in the area before Sunday? And when you say in the vicinity, does that mean right there at that spot in those bushes, or could it have been, down the street at a restaurant?
It was in very close proximity to where he was spotted by the Secret Service. In terms of your first question, whether he was there earlier, our investigation is still looking to determine that.
Whoa. We're going to do two more. You get one. All right? Only two more. You get one.
Okay. We understand that the Secret Service has asked Congress for additional resources since the Butler rally. Have you received those resources yet?
So thank you for that question. So we are working. Look, the Secret Service operates under a paradox of zero-fail mission, but also that we have done more with less for decades. And this goes back many decades, right? What I can tell you is that we have immediate needs right now, and we have great support, not only from President Biden, and you saw his public statement today, where he said that he's going to direct his staff to make sure that the Secret Service has the resources it needs. We're having fantastic conversations with members of Congress. I've been up to the Hill last week. We are continuing to have those conversations, but the long and short of it is this. Coming out of Butler, I have ordered a paradigm shift. The Secret Service's protective methodologies work, and they are sound, and we saw that yesterday. But the way we are positioned right now in this dynamic threat environment, it has given me guidance to say, you know what, we need to look at what our protective methodology is. We need to get out of a reactive model and get to a readiness model. There could be another geopolitical event that could put the United States into a kinetic conflict or some other issue that may result in additional responsibilities and protectees of the United States Secret Service. And so we are working, we are making information available to all of our partners. And I just want to say that the commitment of Congress to the Secret Service throughout the years has been tremendous. And we will continue to work with them and Secretary Mayorkas, whose support in making sure that we're getting what we need has been phenomenal. He is one of our biggest champions and our advocate. And so we're having these conversations, and I feel confident that we will get what we need. We have immediate needs. We have future needs, too. I need to make sure that our counter snipers are the best trained counter snipers in the world, that they are exactly doing what we need them to do, and that they match counterparts in the military and Tier 1 forces. And right now, we are working with Congress to make sure that we get those for our training facility. We also have a necessary need to make sure that we're getting the personnel that we have. And that requires us to be able to have the funding to be able to hire more people. You can't just give me money and say, hey, we're going to make sure that everybody gets overtime. Because the men and women of the Secret Service right now, we are redlining them. And they are rising to this moment, and they are meeting the challenges right now. And if you look back at their body of work over the last 60 days, the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, the Republican National Convention in Chicago, a visit of Prime Minister Netanyahu to Washington, D.C., and to West Palm Beach, which Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office supported. And then we go into the presidential debate in Philadelphia last week. And for those in the media that have been to a national special security event, if you saw the National Constitution Center last week, what you saw was pretty much a mini national special security event with the number of assets that were on that perimeter. And so our folks are rising to this moment, but it requires all of us to be able to have good conversations and make sure that we're getting the Secret Service where it needs to be. And I'm confident that we will achieve that because we don't have an alternative. Success, we have to have it every day. We cannot have failures. And in order to do that, we're going to have some hard conversations with Congress, and we're going to achieve that.
Last question, one more.
The special agent in charge of the FBI,
Yes, sir.
did he act alone? Did he have some kind of help?
At this point, we're still exploring that, investigating that. Our investigation will determine that. We do not have information that he's been acting with anyone else at present.
Do we know how long he's been in Florida when he arrived?
Oh, you snuck one in there.
At this point,
Our investigation is still determining that. Thank you.
All right. Anyhow, nope, that's it. We're not gonna do any more. All right, you got a lot of information there. The last thing I will tell you is, like the director of the Secret Service says, you know, the president called me last night, President Trump. He thanked me for everything that we did along with the Secret Service. He knows we work great together, and he feels safe. That's important because he is. And what we did yesterday proves that the system can work because the suspect didn't even get close to getting a round off, and we apprehended him and brought him to justice. So we're very, very proud of that. Thank you, folks, for being here. I appreciate it.
How do you pronounce his last name, Sheriff? Is it Ruth or Ralph? I've heard both.
I say Ralph, but you say tomato, I say tomato.
you. Thank you. Good morning. It's good to be back in Palm Beach County. Today, I'm signing an executive order assigning the case involving the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump to the Office of Statewide Prosecutor under the supervision of Attorney General Ashley Moody. The suspect, Ryan Routh, is believed to have committed state law violations across multiple judicial circuits in this state. Palm Beach Judicial Circuit, the Judicial Circuit including Martin County, as well as perhaps the Judicial Circuit represented by Broward County. Also, the state of Florida has jurisdiction over the most serious, straightforward offense, which is attempted murder. I've directed state agencies to move expeditiously and to provide full transparency to the public. In my judgment, it's not in the best interest of our state or our nation to have the same federal agencies that are seeking to prosecute Donald Trump leading this investigation, especially when the most serious, straightforward offense constitutes a violation of state law, but not federal law. In addition to holding the suspect accountable, the public deserves to know the truth about how this assassination came to be. And I have directed all state agencies to work expeditiously to be able to uncover the truth in addition to holding this suspect accountable. We are going to hear from some folks that will be involved in this, starting with our Attorney General, Ashley Moody.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you for all who are joining us today. I'm Ashley Moody. I'm the Attorney General of the great state of Florida. Really proud, as always, to stand with a leader like Governor DeSantis, who always appears to meet the moment, whatever that may be, whatever challenge may be upon us. And he's certainly not one to sit on his hands. And today is another demonstration of that incredible leadership characteristic. You know, I think America right now is, and Florida citizens are very hungry for leadership. This is unprecedented to have this much focus on a presidential nominee with the type of rhetoric and threats coming out of the mouths of so many people. And I will just say, it was really disappointing to hear the president say that President Trump should be put in a bullseye just days before we saw the first assassination attempt, and then weeks later at the DNC say that that threat was still very much alive, and now again, in under 30 days, another assassination attempt. And so what I think people are hungry for is leadership. They don't want somebody to come out and say, Secret Service needs to tell us what they need and Congress should do something about it. It may very well be that more resources need to be dedicated to Secret Service. But leadership is about strategy. It's about implementing a plan. It's about determining where your gaps are, your deficiencies, and filling those in. I mean, look no further than our governor when we were hit by a major catastrophe like Ian, a hurricane, and he didn't say, somebody give them money. And he didn't say, you do this. He built a bridge in 3 days. He got it done. I told him that's what he should have ran on when he ran for re-election. That was it. The motto should have been a bridge in 3 days. And so what we need is the president to acknowledge that these agencies, not just Secret Service, but DHS, in which it is housed, are under his purview. That is what the people elected him to be. Our commander-in-chief and the head of an executive branch, which is made up of agencies. And that means when something happens and goes wrong, you are in the details and you are formulating a plan, and it may not always be just about money. It's about leadership. And right now, the American people need to know we're on this. Sometimes states have the ability and the jurisdiction to bring charges and go after maximum penalties that maybe the federal government does not. And that doesn't mean it's a turf war. Somebody asked me about that before. It is very common for state investigators, state prosecutors to work with our federal prosecutors and federal agents on dual tracks with different purposes. And we may have different charges here, and that's why with Governor DeSantis' leadership, I am proud that Florida Department of Law Enforcement and the Florida Highway Patrol will be looking into and investigating what happened when something went terribly wrong, when someone was allowed to remain on the periphery of a golf course in a tree line for 12 hours and get within 500 feet of the President of the United States. We also need trust and transparency. And that's why I'm very proud of the state of Florida for stepping up and this governor for stepping up and delivering that to Floridians and the American people. It is awkward, to say the least, to have a prosecutorial agency and an investigatory agency that is bringing charges and seeking to put the victim away for life, being the same agency and prosecutors that are going after the would-be assassin. And so we're happy to make sure that the American people and Floridians feel confident that we're protecting one of our own, that we're investigating this to leave no stone unturned, and that is to protect the life of the once and potentially future President of the United States, Donald Trump. So thank you, Governor DeSantis, for trusting us and our agencies with this important work.
Great. Okay, Mark Glass, FDLE.
Good morning. I'm Mark Glass, the Commissioner for the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. And first, I just want to say, I want to thank Governor DeSantis for his steadfast leadership of this great state. And I also want you to know that within just hours after this heinous attempt on former President Donald Trump, Governor DeSantis took action and directed state law enforcement to find the truth, to hunt for the truth. And that's what we're doing. We're hunting. Florida is a law and order state, and we will not sit idly by while anybody stonewalls information sharing amongst our law enforcement entities. We know that if we want answers, we got to go get them. And our proud law enforcement officers and deputies are out there doing that, and we are happy to do that for this great state. Additionally, Florida law enforcement is very fortunate to have Attorney General Moody and her prosecutors to help us with finding that truth. And her Office of Statewide Prosecution is an essential partner in our quest for justice. Let me be clear on this one. Acts of domestic terrorism, such as attempted assassinations, are unacceptable, and we will not stand for that in Florida. The men and women of Florida law enforcement agencies throughout our great state are working day and night tirelessly to uncover and fight for the truth. The people of Florida deserve answers, and Governor, we will deliver those answers to you. Thank you.
Okay, Palm Beach County's own Commissioner of the Department of Highway Safety Motor Vehicles, Director Dave Kerner.
Thank you, Governor, and it is good to be back in Palm Beach County. Unfortunate circumstances. My name is Dave Kerner, and my capacity as Executive Director, I have operational control of the Florida Highway Patrol, and we take this assignment, Governor, with deep gratitude to be part of this important investigation. As an agency, we're cognizant of the gravity of the now 2 attempts on the life of a former United States President and current nominee for President of the United States of America. Regarding the direction by Governor DeSantis that state troopers participate in the state-level criminal investigation into this assassination attempt, there are fundamental questions that must be answered and acted upon. There is at least one person, perhaps more, that needs to be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. The experience of the Florida Highway Patrol and their Bureau of Criminal Investigations and Intelligence accepts this mission with humility and a very specific promise. That promise recognizes that effective law enforcement is based upon the foundation of interagency and intergovernmental cooperation in the investigation. We go into this investigation with our partners in FDLE and the Sheriff of Palm Beach County and Martin County, candidly, with the promise of the exchange of information on both sides. We make that commitment. However, Governor, our promise is that if the higher-ups in the federal government refuse to provide the light of transparency then we will fight in the shade. The people of Florida and the United States have a right to be served by a government of candor, honesty, and action, and I'm confident that we will bring you and the people of Florida those answers, no matter the manner in which we uncover them. We will do everything that we can. I know Commissioner Glass and his special agents and our troopers are fully prepared for this mission. Law and order is not merely a concept, it is a way of life that requires constant effort and attention, and our governor has never wavered from that commitment. To the sheriffs of Palm Beach County, Sheriff Bradshaw and Sheriff Snyder of Martin County, we look forward to with you to working in this investigation in a cooperative manner. Thank you very much, Governor.
Okay. We'll now hear from Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw.
Thank you, Governor. The governor is entirely correct. We need to prosecute this guy to the fullest extent. I think that's the prosecutor side of you coming out. But we also need to make sure that all of the details that went into planning this were sufficient. And if they weren't, adjust. That's how you get better at what you do. You have to critique and have after-action reports. We work great with FDLE. I know the commissioner. My commitment to him and the governor is to provide all the resources and information that he needs to do his investigation and get this prosecution where it needs to be. And my commitment to the Secret Service, I met with the director yesterday, and my commitment to them was, when you decide the level of security that you need, I will provide all the resources necessary to make that happen. Right now at Mar-a-Lago, it's the highest level that it can be. It's the same level as when he was the president. And I can almost assure you that when he travels or if he goes to play golf again, things will probably change. But my commitment to him is, and I talked to him on the phone about this, I will make sure that my resources are dedicated to the Secret Service to keep him safe. But thank you, Governor, for doing this. I think it's going to be great information. And, you know, let's prosecute this guy. I know General Moody will. Let's prosecute this guy and put him away so he doesn't get back out. Thank you.
And apparently the suspect fled in the bushes when the Secret Service was shooting at him, jumped into a car. Diligent citizen recorded the plates. They got the word out, and Martin County Sheriff's Department was able to apprehend him very quickly. And so that there's a chance that that would have never happened. He could have gotten away. So great job from Martin County. And here is the sheriff, Bill Snyder.
Thank you, Governor. How gracious. I'm going to be the shortest speaker up here. I just want to say this and weigh in on behalf of the men and women of law enforcement. Notwithstanding some of the political machinations that will go on, the navel gazing, the hand wringing, and all of that, I want to tell you something. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office is one of the best sheriff's offices in the state of Florida. And Rick Bradshaw is one of the best sheriffs in the state of Florida. I will stake my reputation on it. I will say this and then I will sit down. Cops are the best people in the world. And I would go follow into hell and come back any Palm Beach County Sheriff's deputy that wishes to engage. They have my support 100%. We were honored to find that suspect before he got away. But Governor, I'm here to tell you, there's not a police officer, deputy sheriff, state trooper, Secret Service agent, or FBI agent that wouldn't have done the same exact thing we did. Cops are the best people in the world. God bless you, fellas. God bless you. Thank you, Governor.
Well, thank you, Sheriff. We have a strong interest in the state of Florida of bringing this suspect to justice to the fullest extent of the law. The state of Florida has the appropriate jurisdiction to be able to do that, to be able to bring appropriate charges that will lead to appropriate punishment. And I look forward to the investigation, and I look forward to them moving very quickly to hold this suspect accountable and to provide answers to the people of the state of Florida and to the American people. So thanks to everybody that has stepped up in these days since the attempted assassination occurred, and we will provide whatever resources are needed to be able to ensure that this investigation goes swiftly and that we're able to bring the suspect to justice thoroughly. And with that, I'm happy to take some questions. Yep. Well, I look forward to what this investigation in the state will entail. One thing that I will say is when Donald Trump was president, I played golf with him at Trump International in West Palm Beach, great golf course. And when I played with him there was a lot of security. There was dogs sweeping the holes before and after. There was a big buffer. I don't know how many golf carts were traveling. So there was clearly a lot of security. But the one thing I noticed is that when you get into that fifth hole, jail's on the left, the green is in front, and then South Congress Ave is right beyond that where the tee box for the sixth hole, and the sixth hole is basically all on that fence line, and then the 7 tee boxes on the fence line. And so just me as playing partner, as a governor, just thinking about it, I was like, that is the soft underbelly from a security perspective. You can't not notice that when you're on that golf course. And so I think there'll be questions to ask. Clearly, the former president has said that he's very grateful for the Secret Service engaging this guy and preempting him from being able to take off a shot. And so we'll see how it was that this guy was able to burrow himself in the bushes for apparently 12 hours and how that came to happen. And I don't have the answer to that. Perhaps our investigation will be able to do. But as soon as I heard news, there was a little bit confusion. Maybe there was 2 different people shooting at each other that didn't involve Trump. Then it was like, no, Trump was the intended target. As soon as that was clear, I was like, I know exactly where on that golf course that would have been, because that is really the obvious weak point. Statewide prosecutor, that's correct. The Office of Statewide Prosecutor under the supervision of Attorney General Moody. That statewide prosecutor has jurisdiction when somebody commits offenses across multiple jurisdictions. And so we know there were offenses. We have probable cause for offenses in Palm Beach and Martin, and we also think maybe Broward. And so all 3 of those counties are part of 3 distinct judicial circuits. So the statewide prosecutor does have jurisdiction to do, and that's there. And here's the thing. You have a responsibility in law enforcement and as a prosecutor to hold people accountable to the fullest extent of the law. It would be one thing to hand off to the feds if somehow they had more significant crimes that they could pursue. It doesn't seem that that's the case as of now. Clearly, and the FBI has admitted that this was an attempted assassination, you have that jurisdictional hook at the state level for by far the most serious offense. I think this is an offense that should merit a life in prison. And if we're not going to go to the fullest extent of the law, you're lowering the threshold to which someone in the future may try to do something like this. So I think it's really important for the people of Florida, but also for our country, that we pursue the most serious charges that are on the books to hold this guy accountable. And to say you're going to do a couple gun charges, that is not going to be sufficient to do it. So they clearly have jurisdiction in the statewide prosecutor. We have a very strong interest in holding this suspect accountable to the fullest extent of the law. And we are in a better position in the state of Florida to be able to provide answers to the public. I think back about what happened in Las Vegas back 6-7 years ago. We never got any answers about that. I think back about what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. We've not gotten very many answers about that. I think that really erodes public confidence. And I think the Florida agencies working from local on up have an opportunity to do a thorough investigation and then to provide the truth about what's happening. or what happened and how this came to be. And people deserve the truth. And so I think that there's two really significant interests: holding him accountable and then delivering the truth about how this could have happened. Well, it's not a question of casting doubt. I'm going to answer you. So, well, for a couple reasons. One, the federal government does not have jurisdiction to bring an attempted murder charge. If you look at the federal statute, it applies to current federal officials. Okay, so I'm explaining to you why that's happening, if you let me finish. So they don't have jurisdiction over a case that's not a federal official or is a apparent winner of a presidential election or the formally declared president-elect. So right then and there, we have the ability to pursue potentially life in prison under state law. That's a huge reason why we should move forward at the state level than that. And it is the case that you have a situation where these charges that were brought in this jurisdiction, Southern District of Florida, by the federal government, they were dismissed by a federal judge, and now they're on appeal trying to get those reinstated. And they have a right to do that. But I would note to you, it was Merrick Garland who assigned a special counsel because he said there was a political issue and they wanted to appear to be above it. He was the one that did that. There really was no true conflict. If these were normal crimes, you could have done it. But they did a special counsel. And so if you did a special counsel for that, wouldn't those same concerns animate whether you're the appropriate jurisdiction? So they cannot pursue charges to the extent we can. And yes, I do think that there's a lot of concern about how these agencies have operated. And the state of Florida, I mean, you know, for us, all we're interested in is the truth. We're not involved in any of those other things that the Justice Department or FBI have been involved in. So it's better for the public and it's better for justice. Next. Yes, sir. Well, that's what the investigation, I think, will show. You know, some people say, well, how would he have known to be there? But I think those of you who've covered the former president, when he is at Mar-a-Lago on the weekends, that is the #1 place he goes. So it isn't like this was like a 1 in a million chance. On the other hand, this guy went at night, and it was not on any schedule that this was going to happen. It was more of a last-minute thing. And I don't even know that the club is open yet. I think they open in October. I know, in fact, I was talking with them a week or two ago. They did a lot of overseating. I think the course is going to be in really good shape. And he's like, you got to come down and see it. But I don't think it's even open for the members yet. So why would he have chosen now to burrow in to that? I don't know the answer to that question. Our folks are going to look to see. And here's the thing. I'm not interested in trying to like blame this person or that person. It's okay. Let's just get the facts. Let's put it out for the public. Let's figure out this guy, you look at his rap sheet, you look at the things he's been involved in. This guy had red flags. I know he's been looked at by federal law enforcement. How the heck did it end up where he's in West Palm Beach in those bushes? And that's apart from the prosecution. People deserve the truth about that. They need to know his associations. They need to know his motivations, his ideology. And our guys are doing it. In fact, as soon as this happened, when I said investigate, I said save the social media, because what they do, Facebook will take it down and try to hide it. FDLE saved all the social media, and they've been doing that type of research. So I think I think it needs to be done. But that's I have no preconceived notions on this. They're going to do it, but they're going to do a thorough job and I think produce answers that people have confidence in. Yes. I have. So he was in good spirits. He did remark that, on that sixth hole, I think he was in pretty good shape for a potential birdie. And if you know the former president, that matters a lot to him when you're talking about this. And I told him a couple weeks ago, I said the number one thing I got from the Biden debate was people said, you were very reserved, except when Biden claimed he had a 6 handicap. Then you just wouldn't accept that because you knew it wasn't true, and it isn't true. So he was in good spirits, but he was a complimentary of the state of Florida taking the lead. He thought that was totally appropriate, and he encouraged us to continue doing what we're doing. So, clearly we have an interest in doing this apart from anything else, but it was great that he sees the need for what we're doing and that we're going to move forward. Yes, sir. So here's the issue. They are trying to prosecute him in the Southern District of Florida. That's just a fact. So just think about that. You have an agency, they're prosecuting him in 2 different jurisdictions right now. They're prosecuting him in Southern Florida. That's on appeal to the 11th Circuit. They're also prosecuting in the District of Columbia for the January 6th stuff. So these are 2 major cases that these agencies are involved with. And so the question is, given that, and there's a lot of people that have a lot of issues with those prosecutions. I mean, as you well know, it's not like these are prosecutions that the American people have rallied behind. It has divided this country in big ways. And so the question is, you have those prosecutions. Do we honestly think these agencies are the best to turn around and do this investigation on a potential assassin that some of them may or may not want to be held accountable for if there was something they could have done better, right, with security? I don't know what all went into the federal stuff. But man, don't you want a clean slate? Don't you want to have investigative agencies that are just going to pursue this without any other agenda creeping in, without there being any cause for concern about any impartiality? And oh, by the way, that can bring the most serious, readily provable offense under state law, not under federal law. So this is the right thing to do for justice. And I think justice means holding the perpetrator accountable to the full extent of the law, but justice also means making sure we get the unvarnished truth. We haven't gotten the unvarnished truth about Butler, Pennsylvania. That's just a fact. We never got really any truth about Las Vegas when that happened. And so I think people are used to kind of the federal agencies taking control of things and then no answers happening. And we don't want that to happen in this case. That's not appropriate to happen in this case, especially when the state of Florida has multiple grounds with which to pursue charges against this individual. I think what will reveal, I think, is the important thing. What the state does is going to be made public. I mean, if you guys know who are from Florida, you can FOIA a lot of the stuff that's done in these investigations under Florida sunshine laws, and then they have a charge to be very frank and exercise candor with the public. I want the information to get out. I do not want any of the information kept under wraps. We're not a party to anything that happened in terms of the state of Florida government. I mean, we have been asked to help in the past on security, and we're always willing to do that. But that wasn't our primary. We were not responsible for it that day. We've not been responsible for any of the prosecutions that have been brought against the former president. So we're in a great situation to be able to look at this with clear eyes, get answers, and then deliver those answers to the public. I don't think anyone can honestly claim that the federal government has been forthright and transparent about its past investigations. That's just the reality. That's just how these guys operate. Apart from any type of political bias, that's how it's been really for many, many years. That's not how it's going to be here. And so we'll cooperate with all agency or all levels of government, because I think that some of those gun charges may be appropriate to bring, but not to the exclusion of bringing a charge for something like attempted murder. How often will look, I don't know that it's necessarily going to be my office. I think it's going to be the statewide prosecutor. I think the Attorney General's office, the agencies themselves will be doing it. I think, as most of you know who cover Florida, I mean, the governor's not, directing investigations on a day-by-day basis. I mean, there are times when we've authorized investigations, whether it was the Epstein, whether it was the school security, whether it's the illegal immigration, whether it's some of the COVID stuff, and we've convened statewide grand juries, we've done things. But on a day-to-day basis, that's going to be under the purview of the folks who are in these offices, and I would imagine they would want to provide updates as much as they can when there's good information to do that. I don't know if he has a connection, but I think if you look, there was it expired tags or stolen tags? Yeah. So there may be something with the tags that involve a Broward nexus. So they're still working on that. It hasn't been fully confirmed, but we know two counties for two different judicial orders. It may be a third as well. You don't need three. If you have multiple, that's enough, and you can do that for statewide prosecutor. But it may very well may be three. And I think most people in Florida know Broward is a separate judicial circuit from Palm Beach, and Palm Beach is separate from Martin and some of the surrounding counties. Yes, ma'am. I think it's both. I think that we have jurisdiction under state law to pursue an investigation and prosecution under the most serious, readily provable offense, which would be attempted murder, which would carry a maximum sentence of life in prison. The federal government does not have that jurisdiction. If Donald Trump were president right now, they could. If Donald Trump had been elected were to be elected in November and something like this happened after that, then they could, prior to him taking office. But now, as a former president, he's not a federal official under the statute, and for whatever reason, there's actually law saying you can't issue a threat against a presidential party nominee, but there's nothing saying that you can't assassinate under federal law. And I think that why that came to be, I don't know, but that is the law. So if they tried to bring an attempted murder charge under federal law, I don't think it would work. I think it would get thrown out for a lack of jurisdiction. So we have the jurisdiction that's more appropriate. And yes, we will also be more transparent. You can't do an investigation in Florida and be less transparent than them, just given our public record laws. And so folks will be able to submit requests for things that are done. Some of that stuff it gets out that maybe an investigatory perspective isn't always the best, but that's basically where we are. So it is going to be transparent. I think it's important that people get answers. I don't like talking to folks when they have all these questions about things that have happened in the past. And it's one thing if someone provides an investigation and provides an explanation, but if it's just basically a black hole. And this guy was in Ukraine. This guy was giving interviews to the New York Times. This guy was doing a lot of stuff. He's got a rap sheet. He's recruiting people to go fight there. He's talking about Taiwan. Man, we need answers on this. Yes, sir. Of course I'm concerned. I mean, we have a climate right now which is not healthy for this country. And this has happened. I think it's gotten worse over many, many different years. But we are where we are. And I think the security is, of course, paramount. But the reality is, in 330 million people, you're always going to have people that are nut jobs, right? And that's why you have security here at Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. That's why we have it in the state capitol. But in this situation, I think it's heightened. I don't think that there's anybody that's in office or running for office that has the commensurate levels of threats that have been directed at former President Donald Trump. I think that's just a fact. And to have two attempts within a 2-month period, I think that happened to Gerald Ford back in the 70s, but that's not something that's happened very often in the history of our country. Mark Glass and the rest of the team are working with them. The reality is we have a duty to pursue the most serious offense available. And I don't know that you'd want to stand in the way of that happening. So we're going to do it. They're going to work collaboratively with the feds. But as Commissioner Kerner said, if this is not going to be something that's going to be transparent from there, we're going to work hard to behind the scenes to be able to get the information to the public. So I feel that this is a pretty straightforward violation of state law potentially. That of course they have to investigate and prove it up, and they have to get the charges filed and agreed to go forward. But I think that they can do that. But I just think if you get like a couple gun charges, not that those are de minimis, but that is not the same. There's people that have gun charges in this country every single day across every single federal district in this country. To have somebody that's waiting in the bushes with a long gun trying to take out a former president of the United States and current GOP nominee, that is not something that can be taken lightly. And if we do anything but go the fullest extent of the law on this, then I think we're sending a signal that maybe this isn't that bad, and that's unacceptable. So we're going to go fullest extent of the law. I have confidence in Attorney General Moody and her team to be able to get the job done. And so we'll have more information as the investigation unfolds. And if it does lead, which I hope it will lead to appropriate charges, those will be pursued at the appropriate time. Thanks, everybody.